Chapter 1195. 1195. Grandfather still needed an explanation. Yi Wanwan and Yi Mufan walked to their grandfather together. Yi Wanwan docilely stood in front of their grandfather and admitted her wrongs.
Grandpa, sorry.
I was playing a joke on you earlier, so I didn't immediately state I was Yi Bai.
You won't be angry, right, Grandpa?
Although Yi Hongwei kept a stern expression, there wasn't any reproach in his words. You child. You even deceived grandfather. Yi Yi and Yi Shaoan silently nearby stood. Their faces were so dark that they couldn't even hide it. Yi Mufan was admiring Yi Yi and her father's dark expressions as he said, "Haha, Grandpa, don't take it to heart. I also didn't recognize her at first." Wanwan has really grown up, Yi Hongwei sighed. His eyes slowly became convinced as he looked at his grandson and granddaughter. He solemnly said, "You two have done a great job this time. Grandfather knows." As soon as Yi Yi and Yi Shaoan heard this, an ominous feeling pervaded them. Then after a brief pause, Yi Hongwei continued, "Mufan, Wanwan, come visit the office next Monday. Grandfather has something to talk to you about. Also, Shaoan, inform the board. There'll be a board meeting next Monday." In other words, Yi Hongwei wanted to fulfill his promise and announce Yi Wanwan and Yi Mufan's return to the entire company. Yi Mufan's eyes brightened a few degrees. "Yes, Grandpa." Yi Wanwan also said, "Okay." Yi Shaoan met Yi Yi's eyes. His face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. He nearly coughed up blood from his anger. However, Yi Yi donned a generous attitude to praise Yi Wanwan. However, her nails were deeply digging into her palms. Yi Mufan, Yi Wanwan. She really allowed these two pieces of trash to progress this far. Was everything she obtained through great trials, the Yi family, Emperor Sky Entertainment, her honorable identity as the eldest miss of the Yi family, about to be snatched back? How could that be? The Golden Orchid banquet finally ended, and the guests started to leave in batches. In the parking garage, Gong Su lifelessly hung from Luo Chun. Because Yi Wanwan and Yi Mufan were busy entertaining the other guests the whole night, they didn't have time to pay attention to Gong Su. Hence, the poor Luo Chun and Tang Xingho had to keep suffering Gong Su's explosions. Impossible. How could this be possible? How could Brother Yi be a girl? How could Brother Yi be? Gong Su was howling when he froze, and his eyes unblinkingly locked onto something in front of him. Little Candied Plum. The girl walking toward them wore a black gown and had a halo of crystal lights. At this moment, Little Candied Plum and Yi Bai seemed to have merged into the same person. The girl's dress swayed lightly with her movements until she stopped in front of him. Yi Wanwan chuckled.
What?
Didn't you want me to fulfill my bet? Now the second reward is also fulfilled. Gong Su dazedly stared at her. His chest of fury couldn't be released, and his face turned redder and redder. Shit. Too good looking. I can't be angry with her at all. Especially when he thought about how the person in front of him was Yi Bai, who was in female clothes. Her killing power is too strong. When Tang Xingho saw Gong Su looking like a lovesick girl, he silently commented, "I think Yi Bai being a woman is also quite a good thing, otherwise, this fool would definitely bend into a ring without even realizing." Chapter 1196. Gong Su's gaze was evasive, but he also longingly snuck peeks at the girl. His mind crumbled the more he peeked. Although he remarkably wanted to see Brother Yi wearing female clothes, this desire was even more intense than his desire to see Little Candied Plum. He never would have expected it to be in this fashion. "Brother Yi, how could you be like this?"
What?
"Why did you lie to me? If you didn't use your power tyrannically and bullied my artist, I wouldn't have used such special methods." Yi Wanwan looked exasperated. Back then, she and Gong Su were on opposing sides. This punk was too much of a scoundrel, so she made use of this opportunity. When Luo Chun heard Yi Wanwan, he was shocked briefly before his expression instantly turned warm. Back then, Gong Su was still on the same side as Zhou Wenbin. Gong Su used his power and overbearingly wanted to steal the secondary supporting role that he obtained with difficulty in Terrifying Dragon 2. He thought he was finished and was even prepared to accept his fate and go to Zhou Wenbin. To his surprise, Brother Yi rescued him again. In contrast to Luo Chen's reminiscent gratefulness, Gong Su's heart felt like it was stung by a hive of bees. All you know is that Luo Chen is your person. What about me then?
Ugh.
Utterly driving me mad. Yuanwan said, you really weren't back then, but you are now. Aren't I telling the truth now? When Gong Su heard Yuanwan's "you are now," his howl broke off. If I wasn't such a scoundrel back then and didn't bully Luo Chen, would you have not lied to me then? If you weren't that scoundrel back then, I wager we probably wouldn't have met, no? Gong Su thought about it. That was true. If things happened differently, I wouldn't have left Zhou Wenbin and followed Yi Bai. Anything else you want to say? Yuan decided to resolve everything now. Otherwise, who knew how long this guy would have his knickers in a knot with his personality? Gong Su immediately said, I do. I have something to say to you. Wait, no. I have something to say to little Candied Plum. I must say it this second. I can't wait a millisecond longer. He had waited a long time already to say these words intended for little Candied Plum. Yi Mufan couldn't help shouting. What else could you possibly have to say? Gong Su was so aggrieved that he nearly started crying. The girl I've liked for so long and spent so much time searching for ended up being right under my nose. I also offended my elder brother-in-law so greatly. I'm already so miserable. Why can't I say a few words to little Candied Plum? Hey, who's your elder brother-in-law? Yi Wanwan glanced at Yi Mufan, telling him to stop provoking Gong Su. Truthfully speaking, Gong Su was rather tragic this time. Yi Mufan vigilantly stared at Gong Su and grumbled at Yi Wanwan. Wanwan, why are you listening to his nonsense? This punk doesn't have any pure intentions toward you. He wants to seduce you. Yi Wanwan gave Yi Mufan side-eye. So, what are you worrying about? With my man's looks, do I look like someone who can be easily seduced? Yi Mufan choked. Gong Su felt pain piercing him when he saw Yi Mufan whispering something to Yi Wanwan. His elder brother-in-law must be saying bad things about him. Why did I have to run my mouth off? Why do I have to insult Yi Mufan all the time? Look at Han Xinyu. His relationship with Yi Mufan was so amicable. After Yi Wanwan took care of Yi Mufan, she turned to Gong Su again. All right, speak. Gong Su took a deep breath, but wilted when he was about to speak. He stared at Yi Wanwan's face, and his face was conflicted as he made a request. Brother Yi, can you soften up a little? When I see you looking like that, I really can't think of you as little Candied Plum. Yi Wanwan answered. I can't soften up. Make do with it. Gong Su. Chapter 1197 Gong Su. Gong Su seriously considered it. Making Brother Yi turn into a soft girl was truly impossible. Also, he realized he seemed to like this side of little Candied Plum more. Hence, Gong Su had no choice but to silently bag his tears and tragically mend his emotions. Then he started his confession. Brother Yi, you know, I like little Candied Plum. I've liked her since the first time I met her. Yi Wanwan nodded. I've also used Yi Bai's mouth to tell you that you weren't little Candied Plum's type from the start. Yi Wanwan's words were like an arrow to Gong Su's heart. I'm not little Candied Plum's type, meaning I'm not Brother Yi's type. Yi Wanwan paused briefly before she continued. Also, Gong Su, you should also know that I have a boyfriend. Gong Su was just prepared to confess, and was instantly smashed down by Yi Wanwan's hammer with a bang. He was dumbstruck. Right? Yi Bai has a boyfriend. This means little Candied Plum does as well. Although Yi Bai also said little Candied Plum was in a relationship already, he always thought it was an excuse from Yi Bai. However, he had seen Yi Bai's boyfriend with his own eyes. More importantly, Yi Bai's boyfriend was especially handsome. However, he finally found his little Candied Plum after great tribulations, so how could he give up so easily? Gong Su gritted his teeth. So, what if you're already a taken flower? This young master will still graft you to my side. There isn't a flower this young master can't graft. Yi Wanwan felt a headache coming on and sighed. She knew this guy wouldn't be pacified so easily. In truth, Gong Su's matter was a bit difficult to handle. After all, the two of them still had to work together in the future. If she didn't handle it well, it would definitely affect their relationship later. How could she completely kill Gongsu's feelings and make sure they wouldn't flare up in the slightest in the future? At that moment, pattering footsteps came from behind her. Yuan subconsciously turned toward the sound. Around the corner, a fair and delicate child was swiftly flying toward her like a freed little bird. Mommy! Tangdang! Joy filled Yuan's eyes when she saw Tangdang. Yuan instantly found her arms full of a child. Baby, why are you here? The little fella's face was flushed from excitement. Mommy, Tangdang came to pick you up? Yuan had entertained people for an entire night, but she felt herself recuperating lightning fast with this soft little bun in her arms. Baby is so good. Tangdang had been informed he couldn't call her mommy when she was in male clothes. But Yuan was in female clothes right now, so Tangdang called her mommy without any worry. He had no idea about the great explosive effect him calling her mommy had on a certain person now. Behind them, Gongsu was flabbergasted as he looked at the tiny child. What did you call her? You're her son? Brother Yi brought this child with him once, but wasn't he the son of Brother Ye's friend? It felt too magical to hear a tiny child calling Brother Yi mommy. Tongtong's large, dark eyes alertly and displeasedly glanced at the little yellow chick. This little yellow chick coveted his mommy and also doubted whether he was his mommy's baby. Yuan sensed the little fella's unhappiness, so she quickly patted his head in comfort. Then a thought flashed in her mind, and she looked at Gongsu and said, "He's really my son." Tongtong's timing was too opportune. Chapter 1198. She was just fretting over how immensely difficult it was to prune this peach blossom, and Tangdang appeared. What was more effective than Tongtong's pruner? Gongsu's eyes shot open, and his face filled with disbelief. That's impossible. Yuan lightly coughed. However, before Yuan could say anything, Yi Mufan piped in. How's it impossible? This is my sister's son. If you don't believe it, look at this child's face. His eyes, nose, and mouth are identical to my sister's. He didn't care anymore. An enemy's enemy was a friend. Taking care of Gongsu was the most important matter at hand. This punk had a worse reputation than him, so how could he allow this punk to tarnish his sister? Gongsu instantly turned to look at the tiny child hugging Yuan. This child was absurdly beautiful, a noble aura emanating from him despite his young age. He stared at the child for a long time and wanted to prove that Yi Mufan was lying. What he tragically realized was that Yuan and the child looked more and more similar the more he looked at them. There wasn't any disharmony when the mother and son duo were standing together.
Damn.
I wanted to graft the flower, but it turns out the tree bore fruit already. As Yuan hugged Tangdang, she worriedly looked around. Where's Daddy? Why did Tangdang run over by himself first? Siyihan should be nearby, right? She was immensely glad he didn't stumble onto that scene just now. She had been unlucky so many times, but her luck finally shone for once. Tangdang replied, Daddy went to the back to get something for you. Yuan mumbled, Oh, I see, that's wonderful. Tangdang, you're truly Mommy's lucky star. Yuan smacked another smooch on Tongtong's cheek. He helped her take care of such a gigantic danger before Siyihan arrived. She was simply too blissful. The sudden praise from Mommy caused the little fella to purse his lips with happiness all over his face. He was originally worried Mommy would be angry he didn't properly sleep early. Thank goodness he listened to Daddy's words and came to pick up Mommy. At that moment, Yuan saw a familiar figure appearing behind Tangdang and walking toward them. Unsurprisingly, Siyihan also came. Yuan was once again very glad that Tongtong's arrival took care Gongsu. Otherwise, chickens would be flying every which way by now. Adieu. Yuan instantly stood up and sprinted towards Siyihan. Siyihan stared at the high heels under Yuan's feet with a frown, his face darkening slightly. Why are you running? Yuan looked up and smiled like a blossoming flower. Because I'm happy to see you. Her arms were around his waist, but Si Yihan silently placed the box he was holding onto the ground. Change your shoes. After the box was opened, a pair of comfortable sandals was revealed. This was what Tang Tang said he went to grab? Yi Wanwan's eyes glitteringly stared at Si Yihan like he was a little angel who'd grown a pair of wings. Help me put them on. Si Yihan intently stared at her for a moment before making her hold his shoulders. Then he bent down and helped her switch into the sandals. Although he had a cold expression, his movements as he helped her change her shoes were incomparably careful. Yi Wanwan plastered herself onto him as soon as he straightened back up. Also, did you see the message I sent you? We won 2 Best Actors and 1 Best Actress tonight. You haven't complimented me yet. Si Yihan replied, not bad. Yi Wanwan's face fell when she heard that. She was in utter disbelief. That's all? Si Yihan glanced at her gloomy and extremely disappointed expression. After a brief hesitation, he bent over and laid a feather-light kiss on her lips. Behind them, the completely forgotten Gong Su. I should be under the car instead of next to the car, so I can't see how sweet you two are. Chapter 1199. 1199, didn't she say she can't soften up? So who's this clingy and incredibly soft girl who likes to act spoiled? Gong Su felt thousands of arrows piercing his heart as he watched this scene. Tang Xingho covered his poor, blinded eyes and coughed lightly. He clapped Gong Su's shoulders. My condolences, fool. You lose based on your looks alone. Shut up. Gong Su retorted immediately. Tang Xingho clicked his tongue. His figure also seems to be better than yours. Are you done yet? Moreover, they have a child already. Gong Su. His HP instantly dropped to 0. Yi Wanwan saw Gong Su's expression and knew he'd almost completely given up, so she breathed a sigh of relief. It's late already. You should go home soon. Gong Su felt lifeless. I won't go home. I want to get drunk off my ass. Yi Wanwan frowned. How could she allow Gong Su to drink in his current state? Luo Chen looked at Yi Wanwan and said, Brother Yi, you can go home and rest. I'll stay with him. Only after hearing that did Yi Wanwan relax. There definitely wouldn't be any problems with Luo Chen accompanying him. Thank goodness there's a reassuring one. Yi Wanwan was afraid of unnecessary trouble, so she didn't dare to linger. After bidding farewell to her group, she hurriedly got into the car. The black car stably drove away in the night with Su Yi as the driver. In the back, baby Tang Tang, who was sitting in between Si Yihan and Yi Wanwan, nervously said, Sorry, Mommy. Tang Tang didn't listen to you and sleep. How could Yi Wanwan be angry? It's nothing. Mommy's also very happy baby came to pick Mommy up. Just like how Tang Tang didn't have any principles when it came to Yi Wanwan was the same with Tang Tang. Her most important principle was having no principles. The little fella was relieved. His face was filled with worry when he muttered, because Tang Tang was worried Mommy would drink. As soon as Mommy drinks, Mommy forgets about Tang Tang. That was the only thing he couldn't accept, so he hadn't listened to Yi Wanwan on this rare occasion. Yi Wanwan quickly said, Don't worry. Mommy will definitely keep her promises to Tang Tang. Not too long ago, the father and son duo at the Little House of Rose, Si Yihan helped tuck Tang Tang into his blanket. Sleep. The little fella's face was lonely. When is Mommy coming back? Very late. How late is very late? The little fella asked. Hard to say. Did Mommy go to a social function? A banquet. Tang Tang instantly frowned. A banquet? Do people drink at banquets? Yes. The little fella's hackles immediately rose like he was facing a great enemy. Then will Mommy drink? Si Yihan glanced at him before he nonchalantly said, Maybe. Tang Tang grew frantic. But didn't Mommy promise she wouldn't drink any more last time? Do you think she listens to me? But Mommy listens to Tang Tang. Si Yihan looked calm. Hopefully. Si Yihan's ambiguous words caused the child to instantly lose his calm. Tang Tang laid on the bed. When Si Yihan was about to leave, he reached out to grab Si Yihan's sleeves. Daddy. Si Yihan stopped walking and looked at the child. With an extremely conflicted expression, The child said, "Can we go and pick up Mommy? It's very late already. You should sleep." The child grew anxious. "But I'm worried about Mommy," and so, at baby Tong Tong's adamant request, Si Yihin had no choice but to reluctantly take him to pick up Yuanwan. Chapter 1200. At a certain mansion in Imperial City, Han Xinyu took off his elegant, high-end tailored jacket and walked to his wine cabinet. He opened a bottle of red wine, poured a glass, and walked to the balcony. Behind him, Fei Yong couldn't help but feel surprised that Han Xinyu was drinking at this time of night. Han Xinyu's life was very disciplined and healthy. Unless he needed to attend a social function or entertain his friends, he rarely drank by himself. However, this wasn't too odd. Maybe he was drinking a glass or two because he was in quite a good mood due to their agency's overwhelming victory. Fei Yong didn't scrutinize this minor detail. He exuberantly followed Han Xinyu and started gossiping. My goodness. Tonight's news was too frightening, wasn't it? Yi Bai was actually Yi Mufan's sister, Yi Guangguan. This is simply, it's Wanwan, the wands from long hair wounds a monarch's heart. Han Xinyu interrupted Fei Yong and corrected him as he stood in front of the balcony and looked at the ink-colored night. Oh, right. Wanwan, you Wanwan. Xinyu, you don't know, but the entire industry has exploded. Every single one of my group chats is talking about this, and my phone is about to explode from these people calling me. Shit, I'm also completely dumbfounded. I only learned about this tonight, alright? However, Xinyu, you, on the other hand, already knew about this. As Fei Yong spoke, he remembered something and suddenly slapped his head.
Shit.
Could it be the woman you were in a scandal with last time was Yi Bai? Han Xinyu sipped his wine, but didn't say anything, implicitly agreeing. Realization dawned on Fei Yong. Fuck me. No wonder. I was wondering why you would suddenly care about a girl so much. For her, you caught someone cheating and also fought for her justice. I also realized your attitude toward Yi Bai's been weirder and weirder lately. You were absurdly gentle. I was wondering why you were so considerate and gentle to a man. You almost made me think that you turned gay. Fei Yong stopped himself in time. He turned to look at Han Xinyu, like his world was crumbling down on him. So, Yi Bai's really female? If not, Han Xinyu finally spoke. He glanced at Fei Yong and swallowed a sip of red wine before slowly saying, "What? Did you think I liked a man?" Han Xinyu's low voice dissipated in the night breeze. Fei Yong didn't process what this sentence meant at first. 3 seconds later, he looked up at Han Xinyu with a swish with a dramatic change in expression. Shit. What did Xinyu mean? Did he admit he liked Yi Bai? Fei Yong was rooted to his spot from the shock. He stared at Han Xinyu, flabbergasted. He seemed to have learned something remarkable. Xinyu, you like Yi Bai? Han Xinyu remained silent. Although Han Xinyu didn't say anything, Fei Yong had been by Han Xinyu's side for too long and knew him too well. Fei Yong could guess from his eyes. Moreover, he already noticed something amiss with Han Xinyu before he found out Yi Bai was a girl. After Fei Yong calmed down, he thought, thank goodness Yi Bai's a woman and Xinyu didn't turn gay. Yi Bai had given Han Xinyu a hand during his most difficult time. Later, their thoughts collided in every respect. Thinking back on it, considering the fact that Yi Bai was female, it wasn't strange that Han Xinyu ended up liking Yi Bai. Fei Yong lightly coughed and probed, then what do you plan to do?
Do you need to confess or something?
Han Xinyu drank his glass of red wine in one gulp. Not every type of feeling needs to be verbalized. Chapter 1201. 1201. The venue for the banquet was quite far from the little house of Rose, so Yuanwan had Su Yi turn on the radio to stave off the boredom of the journey. The radio was currently playing a midnight show, and soothing music permeated the car. Yuanwan had her eyes half closed as she held Tang Dang and leaned against Si Yihin's shoulder, enjoying this rare moment of peace. Her nerves had been tense for so long, but she could finally relax. After the song ended, the show host's voice was heard from the radio. I'm sure all of my listeners know that tonight's Golden Orchid Awards finally dropped its curtains. In comparison to previous years, this year's Golden Orchid Awards had the most headlines. The Best Actress laurel fell to the dark horse rookie, Jiang Yanran, and double Best Actors happened for the first time in the history of the Golden Orchid Awards. However, the most brilliant star of this year's Golden Orchid Awards ceremony wasn't the two Best Actors or the Best Actress. Instead, it was the god behind the Best Actress and the two Best Actors. Yuanwan snapped to attention when she heard that. The Golden Orchid Awards is coincidentally being mentioned on the show I turned on, and the host even mentioned me. Yuanwan eagerly straightened up to listen to the host complimenting her. The god behind them is the manager of Gongsu, Luo Chen, and the newly crowned Best Actress, Jiang Yanran. Yi Bai. I'm not sure if my listeners watched the live broadcast of tonight's Golden Orchid Awards, but Xiao, watched it. He didn't get a lot of screen time at the award ceremony, but I never would have expected this mysterious manager to be so handsome. His looks aren't inferior to the two Best Actors at all. Even my heart was moved. No wonder the netizens bestowed the title Heavenly Group of Breathtaking Beauties on Age of the Immortals. The host, Xiao, appeared to have been completely enraptured as a fan and excitedly continued, "There's also another explosive scoop fresh out of the oven. Yi Bai isn't a man. She's a girl who likes to dress as a man for convenience, and her female form is also breathtaking. Now all the girls want to have her babies, and all the boys worship her as their goddess. She's truly fatal to both men and women." As soon as "fatal to both men and women" was spoken, Yuanwan wanted to die and didn't dare to look at Si Yihin's face at all. An ominous feeling crept upon Yuanwan the moment she heard the host say, "Even my heart was moved." As expected, the radio program turned more sinful the more the host spoke, especially that last part. She thought the danger was resolved already, but who knew this would happen when she finally relaxed? She originally thought she would attract at least 50% fewer people after changing back into female clothes, but she ended up attracting 50% more? This chapter is scrapped from Riyadh Light Novel. Yuanwan prayed Si Yihin wasn't paying attention to the show, but in the next second, Si Yihin's dry voice was heard next to her ears. "Fatal to both men and women?" Yuanwan blinked and turned to stare at his face, which was bewitching like a siren's under the night sky. She puffed up her cheeks and said, So, what if I'm fatal to men and women? You captivate the whole world. I haven't said anything even though I have so many more love rivals than you. I'm also mad." Yuanwan decisively shifted the blame. Si Yihin deeply stared at her and didn't say anything as though he was recalling something. Yuanwan looked at Si Yihin's face and felt she had a very good argument, so she instantly became confident and glared at him, not to be outdone. "What? Was I wrong?" Si Yihin's gaze suddenly turned to the sleepy Tangdang in Yuanwan's arms. Then he extended his hand and covered Tongtong's eyes before leaning toward Yuanwan. His rough voice rang next to her ears. "I don't want to captivate the whole world." In the next second, he gently covered her soft and sweet lips, his remaining words drowned out in the kiss. "I only want to captivate you, Yuanwan." Chapter 1202. 1202 Su-yi. Up front in the driver's seat, Su-yi hastily turned off the radio. A second later, he saw this dog-abusing scene from the rearview mirror and was rendered utterly speechless. "Ninth Master, have you forgotten something? Don't only cover young Master Tongtong's eyes." In the end, the ignored Su-yi had no choice but to take action himself, and he silently raised the divider, cutting off the view. Si Yihin didn't move his hand from Tongtong's eyes until he detected that the child had fallen asleep already. He deepened the kiss at the same time. Yuanwan's lips might feel cool, but her cheeks were boiling. Too astonishing. Did he just hit on me? Si Yihin actually hit on me. With an extremely smooth technique, too. Meeting Yuanwan's large, round eyes and fixed gaze, Si Yihin was forced to stop the kiss. He asked with an exasperated expression, "What's with your face?" Yuanwan's eyes were glittering as she said, Ajio, have you noticed? You actually know how to hit on girls. Plus, your sweet talk skills have been lit to the max. Your EQ improved in leaps and bounds. Did you secretly join some training class that improves your EQ? Si Yihan's face darkened slightly. He gripped her chin and fiercely bit her lips before saying through gritted teeth, "One is marked by the company one keeps." Yi Wanwan blinked and thought, "There's nothing wrong with this answer. It must have been inspired by me. One is marked by the company one keeps." Half an hour later, the car finally reached the little house of Rose. Si Yihan took Tang Dang from Yi Wanwan's arms, and the family of three got out of the car. Old Jiang was standing by the door and welcomed them inside. Si Yihan first carried Tang Dang upstairs. Yi Wanwan caught a giant box sitting in the living room from her periphery and asked with a frown, "What is this?" Old Jiang honestly reported, "Master, we received a fridge again today." Old Jiang looked confused, evidently not understanding why his master bought so many household appliances for nothing. They received a lot of fridges, televisions, washing machines, and etc. this month already. Yi Wanwan was at a loss of words when she heard this. That guy, nameless Nia. Enough already. How many fridges, televisions, and washing machines did he send here? And he insists that his principles prohibit him from accepting anything that isn't obtained honestly? What's the difference between his current actions and robbery? Why haven't the crew of the show beat him to death yet? Alright, got it. Help me find a random storage facility and put it there for now. Later, she would ask if any of her friends wanted it. If they did, she would give it to them. If not, she would sell it. Yi Wanwan was about to go upstairs when her phone rang. It was a message from the periodically missing nameless Nia. Nameless Nia appeared to be very busy lately and couldn't be reached often. When he rarely returned to the grid, it was to ask for photos of Tang Dang in order to stay alive. Nia Hollow Pit. Sister Famous Yi, did you get the fridge? Famous Yi, I got it. Nia Hollow Pit. That's good, that's good. This is probably the last time I'll send you alimony. Yuama was about to tell him to stop sending appliances to her, but when she saw this message, she typed, "Famous Yi, what is it?" Nia Hollow Pit. I've been banned by all the shows. These shows are such frauds. How could they not follow the rules? They said the winner would get the prize. So how could they ban me from participating altogether? Famous Yi. Yuamon was rendered speechless. Who else would they ban other than you? It's already quite nice that they didn't beat you to death. Chapter 12:03. After nameless Nia handed her his alimony and asked her for a few photos, he quickly disappeared without a trace again. Yuamon originally planned to ask him about his progress in searching for Tongtong's biological parents, but didn't have the chance. This guy was truly sloppy. How could he be so careless? Wasn't he afraid she'd turn monstrous and kidnap Tangdang one day? Yi Wanwan walked upstairs. Si Yihan had already carried Tangdang to bed, and the little fella was sound asleep. Yi Wanwan leaned over and planted a kiss on Tongtong's cheeks. Meanwhile, Si Yihan pulled a first aid kit from a drawer. Come here. Yi Wanwan obediently walked to the sofa. Okay. Si Yihan glanced at the blisters on her feet caused by the high heels, carefully placed her feet on his leg, and applied ointment to her feet. Yi Wanwan neither liked nor was used to wearing high heels, but she had to wear super tall high heels to put on an act that night. Hence, she felt like she was a mermaid undergoing torture the entire night. When Si Yihan took out the pair of sandals earlier, she simply wanted to marry him. Yi Wanwan propped up her chin and appreciated his face, which was even prettier when he was concentrating. She was thinking about this when she was suddenly hit with a sense of déjà vu. In the silent night, the man skillfully moved as though he had helped her apply medicine countless of times. On the bed next to them, the soft little bun slept soundly. This peaceful scene was enough to convert a prodigal and make a general shed his armor. Whether it was the world at its glory or the Jianghu with its smoke and thrills, it couldn't compare to being by his side at this moment. Upon sensing that she was staring at him, Si Yihan glanced at her and asked, "What?" Yi Wanwan murmured with her chin resting on her hand, "I was suddenly thinking, back then, why did you like me?" Si Yihan's expression froze briefly when he heard her question. Why are you suddenly asking this? I was just curious, Yuanwan mumbled. Back then, I was kicked out of home and severed my ties to my parents. I was also fat and ugly. I didn't have any money or looks, so why did you take a liking to me? She asked this question once before, but Si Yihan's response ended up being very mystical. He said, I only have you. What in the world did I only have you mean? Ever since she was reborn, she had been running around for her freedom, her livelihood, and her family, so she didn't bother to think deeply about the problems she didn't understand. However, this question silently crept upon her again on a night like tonight. I remember I asked you the same question when we were fighting a year ago. Back then you answered, I only have you. What did that mean? Yuanwan mumbled. Through the window, the cool rays from the moonlight showered the girl's lost and curious face. Si Yihan looked at her lost and confused expression, and his slender figure appeared to emanate a feeling of desolation. Yuanwan frowned lightly. Si Yihan's expression made her feel like he was the only one in the entire world. Why does he look like this? An unknown amount of time passed before Si Yihan finally noticed her clear and pure eyes. He slowly said, Because I only have you. Only have you. I only have you. Yuanwan felt something sharp piercing her heart, and an ache spread through her heart. As the direct eldest grandson of the Si family and the only family head, he was clearly situated in a high place with a noble status and was revered by everyone as a god. So, why did he look like this? Why would he say he only had her? Yuanwan became more and more lost. Could it be that she missed something in her previous life? Or did she forget something important? Chapter 1204. 1204. Yuanwan tried her best to sift through her memories, but came up with nothing.
Weird.
My memory is so good, so there's no way I don't have the slightest recollection of something that happened? When she tried her hardest to think about it, though, she felt something stabbing her mind, and a piercing pain radiated from the depths of her mind.
Sleep.
Her body was suddenly enveloped by a warm embrace, and Si Yihan's immensely comforting voice came from next to her ear. The pain dissipated into nothing like it was an illusion. Yuanwan nodded and rubbed her tired eyes. She had probably been under too much pressure and was too busy lately. Several days later, at the Yi Group building, Yi Hongwei summoned all the senior management and called a board meeting. In the conference room, Yi Shaowen was directly sitting to Yi Hongwei's left, and Yi was in the second spot with Gu Yueza to her left. On Yi Hongwei's right was Yi Mufan with Yuanwan sitting to the right of her brother. When the board members and senior management saw this seating arrangement, they looked at each other, bewildered, and didn't dare to even breathe loudly. Ever since the results of the Golden Orchid Awards and the events at the banquet a few days ago came out, everyone at Yi Group felt anxious. Everyone knew this company's regime was about to change. Yi Hongwei coughed lightly and said, You must all already know these two people next to me, the president of Age of the Immortals, Yi Mufan, and the director of the Talent Recruitment Department, Yuanwan. Also, as everyone knows, the general manager position of Emperor Sky Entertainment is temporarily held by Gu Yueza, Mr. Gu. Yi Hongwei turned to Gu Yueza and said, Yueza, thank you for your help during this period of time. Gu Yueza had a gentle and cultured expression as he humbly said, Chairman Yi, you're too polite. We're all family, so it was the least I could do. Yi maintained her silence next to him and wore a magnanimous and proper faint smile, but her heart had already turned stormy. In the past few days, she considered countless plans and also vainly hoped Grandfather Yi wouldn't be so worry-free about Yi Mufan, but it looked like things had still progressed to the worst outcome. When Yi Hongwei heard Gu Yueza's response, he nodded with satisfaction and turned to Yi Mufan. After this period of assessment, I'm sure everyone witnessed Mufan's abilities. Hence, I've decided that from today onwards, Mufan will take up the post of Emperor Sky Entertainment's general manager. When Yi Hongwei finished speaking, Everyone was silent for a second, and countless people subconsciously turned to look at Yi Shaoan and Yi Yi with some hesitation on their faces. However, there was still some scattered applause before roaring applause reverberated in the room. All the senior management couldn't help but sigh. Who would have expected that Yi Shaoting's family would manage to return one day after being kicked out like stray dogs 3 years ago? The current Yi Mufan was different than before, so it was better for them to maintain an observant attitude and avoid offending him. Moreover, he had Yi Wanwan next to him, who was such formidable support. This brother and sister duo was a real piece of work. In contrast to the grandson-in-law, Gu Yueze, the direct grandson Yi Mufan was much more directly related no matter how you looked at it. The result was still unclear. Yi Shaoan finally couldn't repress himself any longer when he saw everything settling in place. He harshly slapped the table. I don't agree. Dad, don't you know this punk's personality full well? Don't you remember the hell he put the company through when he was in the company before? Yi Hongwei's brows furrowed when he saw his second son losing his composure. Chapter 1205. 1205 Yi Hongwei sternly said, Shaoan, I've already said the Yi Group is my blood and soul, and I won't be biased toward anyone. I only have one principle. The position will be held by whoever is capable. It's true Mufan didn't perform well before, so I gave him his deserved punishment. Now he's used his abilities to prove himself, so I gave him an opportunity as well. If he doesn't do well, he'll also have to leave. Just as Yi Wanwan expected, Grandfather Yi didn't pay Yi Shaoan's doubts any heed. What Grandfather Yi cared about the most in his life was the company he founded with his life's blood. It was as he said, he only had one requirement for his heir. The position would be held by whoever was capable. The favorable impression they gained earlier was merely supplemental. The only thing that succeeded in persuading Grandfather Yi was their sheer abilities. As long as they had results to show, no matter how Yi Shaoan and Yi Yi jumped around and made a commotion, Yi Shaoan absolutely wouldn't change his mind. Especially since Grandfather Yi had never been at ease about Gu Yueze. Back then, Gu Yueze was selected merely because the Yi family was thrown into chaos and he truly had no one to fill the role, so he temporarily agreed to Gu Yueze being the interim general manager under persuasion from Yi Yi and Yi Shaoan. And so, Yi Mufan's entrance into Emperor Sky Entertainment was finalized like that. The meeting ended this gloomy atmosphere. Yi Shaoan ignored Yi Yi's advice and smacked the table before angrily leaving. Outside the conference room, Yi Yi concealed the jealousy in her eyes. Mufan, welcome back. We'll work together from now on. You can ask me anything you don't understand. Yi Mufan snorted. Perhaps he might have really been deceived by her gentle and caring sister-cousin persona in the past, but did she still think he was an idiot? Yi Mufan was about to say something when he suddenly realized both Yi Wanwan and Gu Yueze disappeared. He quietly cursed before he glowered at Yi Yi. Your concern is unnecessary. Please keep a closer watch on your man and keep him away from Wanwan. Otherwise, he has no one but himself to blame for the consequences. Yi Mufan hastily ran off to look for Yi Wanwan after saying that. The second Yi Mufan turned around, Yi's expression couldn't be any darker. At the end of a deserted hallway, Gu Yueze looked at the seemingly completely different Yi Wanwan and studied her appraisingly. Wanwan, congratulations. Yi Wanwan expressionlessly glanced at him. Speak frankly. Gu Yueze courteously asked, Are you free tonight? Let's have a drink together. Gu Yueze's eyes were shining with a predator's glint. Gu Yueze had ingratiated himself in the Yi family for 3 years already, so his roots were nestled deeply and solidly. With Yi Mufan's current strength, he still couldn't shake Gu Yueze's position. Hence, he wasn't in a hurry and merely sat on the sidelines, planning to reap the spoils later. What interested him the most, though, was Yi Wanwan. This woman truly made him more and more curious. Why hadn't he discovered before that this disgusting idiot also had such a seductive side? Yi Wanwan originally didn't want to come, but for some reason, her subconscious concern for Gu Yueze made her show up. And so, She heard Gu Yueza taking the initiative to invite her out. Gu Yueza, who viewed her as a dreadful monster, actually invited her out of his own accord with such a polite attitude too. The sun had to be rising from the west. When had she not pesteringly clung to his back and ended up faced with disgust and indifference? This looks-dependent world. Chapter 12:06 Gu Yueza's indifferent attitude made it seem like everything he did to her never happened. However, Yuanwan naturally saw the ulterior motive and desire in his eyes. Yuanwan looked at this man before her who pretended to be a gentleman but had lust in his eyes. She pensively asked, Gu Yueza, did I truly like you? Gu Yueza raised his brows. What do you mean? Yuanwan shrugged. Nothing. I just thought I was probably blind back then and my mind wasn't thinking straight. Her mind was probably traumatized by that terrorist attack. Otherwise, why would she like someone like Gu Yueza? Gu Yueza's pupils abruptly contracted and a sneer rose on his lips. Yuanwan, you can't possibly still be dreaming and delusionally want to climb into Si Yihin's bed, right? Yuanwan's brows raised slightly. Climb into Si Yihin's bed? I didn't, right? It's always been Si Yihin who comes to my bed to sleep with me. Yuanwan was about to speak when urgent footsteps came from behind her. Yi Mufan had anxiously rushed over and planted himself in front of Yuanwan. Gu Yueza, what do you want? Yuanwan didn't have any interest in continuing, so she listlessly told Yi Mufan. Brother, let's go. Yi Mufan originally wanted to give Gu Yueza a few more insults but had no choice but to turn around and catch up with Yuanwan. As soon as they got into the car, Yi Mufan anxiously asked, Why did that jackass Gu Yueza want with you? Yuanwan propped her head up and offhandedly replied, Perhaps he wanted to reminisce the past with me. Yi Mufan lowly cursed.
Shit.
Reminisce the past. Bullshit. That jerk simply wants to seduce you because you always chased after him but suddenly started ignoring him, underwent such a drastic transformation, and turned out so pretty. That scum. Wanwan, you mustn't be deceived by him. I understand people like him too well. The corners of Yi Wanwan's lips twitched. He truly deserved to be called a well-seasoned womanizer. His grasp of this scum's mindset was very accurate. After they left the company, Yuanwan had a meal with her family. As soon as they sat down, Yi Xiaoding and Liang Wanjun started to reproach and denounce Yi Mufan. Yi Xiaoding said, Mufan, what's wrong with you? How could you hide such an important matter from us? Your sister had to venture in this industry as a girl. What would we do if anything dangerous happened to her? Yi Mufan retorted, Isn't this why she presented herself as a guy? So that she wouldn't be in danger. Looking like a guy isn't safe either. Liang Wanjun interrupted before Yi Mufan could finish speaking. Yi Mufan. Yuanwan quickly said, Dad, Mom, don't blame brother. It was me who made brother help me hide it from you precisely, because I was afraid you'd worry. Look, aren't I just fine? Brother protected me very well. Yi Xiaoding's anger finally dispersed slightly, but his expression was still dark when he said, Wanwan, this house was the term you set with Chu Hongguang, wasn't it? Back then, Wanwan said the house was reclaimed with her friend, Yi Bai's help. Only now did they realize it was their daughter, who laboriously worked hard on the outside all along. As soon as Yi Xiaoding and Liang Wanjun realized that, their hearts ached immensely. Wanwan, it's Dad's uselessness that forced you to work so hard. Yi Xiaoding's face was full of heartache. Yi Wanwan quickly feigned anger and said, Dad, we're family. Don't mention it. Brother and I are still inexperienced in many things. It's only because you were coaching us from the side that we were so successful. Without you, we wouldn't have succeeded. You're a light post. Chapter 12:07. 12:07. A smile immediately spread across Yi Xiaoding's face. Oh, child, Yi Mufan, who had buried his head into his bowl of rice and was silently eating, finally relaxed. Younger sister was still the fearsome one and pacified their parents instantly. If it were him, his efforts would have been futile even if he spoke for 3 whole days. After dinner, due to her parents' adamant request, Yuanwan told Si Yihin to take care of Tangdang and stayed the night at her family home. On the balcony, Yuanwan sat on a rattan chair next to the circular table and read the relevant information on Emperor Sky Entertainment. Don't be careless. Yi Shaoan and Yi Yi will definitely take action in the near future. Yi Mufan nodded. Yes, I understand. I won't relax. Yuanwan saw how Yi Mufan looked as though he was about to face a great enemy, and she chuckled lightly. No need to be too nervous. We have Age of the Immortals now. We don't have nothing anymore. Yi Mufan looked at his sister in a daze. He never would have expected that Wanwan's joking words from back then all actually turned out true. He hadn't detected it because he was with Wanwan the whole time, but suddenly thinking back on it, his sister's transformation lately was too drastic. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say she had turned into a completely different person. However, no matter what, she was still his most beloved sister. Yi Wanwan stayed the night at her parents' place and didn't leave until the next morning. Yao Jiawen was getting more and more used to the work, so there were many things she could handle, and Yi Wanwan became a lot freer. She didn't have any obligations that day, so after attending a meeting at the office, she decided to return to the little house of Rose. Before going home, Yuanwan specifically went to a bakery to buy some cakes and desserts. When she passed by a children's store, a very adorable pair of shoes caught her eyes, so she decisively bought them. How could she not have any clothes to match the shoes? And so, she bought an outfit for Tangdang. How could she not have a hat to match the clothes? And so, she decisively bought a nice hat she found. In the end, Yuanwan ended up buying an entire outfit for Tangdang and carrying a bunch of bags simply because she saw a pair of shoes from the crowd. After Yi Wanwan put her trophies into the car, she called Tangdang. Hello, Tangdang. Mommy. Baby, Mommy will be home soon. What are you doing? Have you gotten up yet? I'm up. Daddy is taking Tangdang to go fishing. She had Si Yihin take care of the child, and he was taking the child fishing? Couldn't he have taken Tangdang to do something more fun? Baby, after Mommy comes back, Mommy will take you to do something fun. Mommy also bought yummy food and pretty clothes for you. Okay, Tangdang will wait for Mommy. Yi Wanwan soon arrived at the little house of Rose. Yi Wanwan carried her bags of trophies and pushed open the courtyard door while humming a tune. She was passing by a large, sturdy tree in the courtyard when a head abruptly hung down from the tree. Oh my god! Yi Wanwan jumped in fright and reflexively kicked without even thinking. In the next second, a bang was heard and an arm blocked her kick. Nameless Nya jumped down from the tree with a bird's nest sitting on his head and a dog's tail grass. He rubbed his arm with a giant pout and accusatory eyes. Sister Famous Yi, isn't screaming a normal person's reaction? Why did you have to kick me? Yi Wanwan's soul was nearly jolted out of her body because of him. When she saw that it was Nameless Nya, she shouted, flustered, normal people walk properly too. So, why don't you also walk properly? Who would jump into a tree for no reason like you? Chapter 1208. 1208. Who would jump into a tree for no reason like you? Yi Wanwan was shouting that when 3 people jumped down one after another from the tree with 3 swishes. The 3 people were Spray of Flowers, Devotee, and Brick Moving Foreigner. Spray of Flowers was gorgeously dressed as usual and bonelessly hanging off of Nameless Nya. He waved at her. Hey, Boss Famous. We meet again. Yi Wanwan was rendered speechless as she stared at this group. Birds of a feather truly flocked together. Like begets like, this kind of boss would obviously have the same kind of underlings. Didn't the 4 of them find it crowded to be on the same tree? Oh right, shouldn't there be 5 people? Why were there only 4? Why are you missing ones? Yi Wanwan casually asked with a glance at the 4 people. The iceberg man with his coffin doesn't seem to be here today. Dead man, stop sleeping. Nameless Nya shoved Spray of Flowers off and kicked the tree.
Bang!
A person tumbled out of the tree. It was a certain patient with terminal stage laziness cancer. Iceberg Man made a human-shaped dent in the fallen leaves on the ground. He languidly got up and stood there, too lazy to even slap off the leaves and dust on his body. Yuanwan couldn't bear to directly look at these 5 oddities. Devotee leaned close to Yuanwan and rubbed his hands with a flattering expression. Boss Famous. I'm so happy to see you. May I ask, does your house have, Yuanwan asked, have what? Brick Moving Foreigner butted in. Boss Famous. Does your house have feces? Yuanwan what? Devotee shoved the big lug aside. No, we're asking, does your house have food? Yuanwan was taken back again. Huh? Food? Devotee nodded vigorously. That's right. To tell you the truth, we haven't eaten anything in 3 days. Spray of Flowers draped himself over nameless Nya again and lifelessly interjected, It's been 3 days, 2 hours and 18 seconds. Yuanwan, why are they so miserable every time I see them? How do they get by? On baby Tong Tong's behalf, Yuanwan generously said, Enter first. Devotee was incessantly emotional. Boss Famous, you simply have a bodhisattva's heart. You'll definitely enter Sukhavati after death. Yuanwan, don't compliment people if you don't know how. As Yuanwan led the 5 people inside the house, she casually asked, Oh right, I haven't asked yet. Why are you here today? You're here all together too. The 5 of them were extremely elusive, so she hadn't seen them for several months already. Brick Moving Foreigner asked honestly, Boss Famous, we came to take little young Master Tangting home. Dead silence abruptly descended on them the second Brick Moving Foreigner finished speaking. In the next second, there was a resounding bang. To pick up your master? Yuanwan entered the house without any hesitation and slammed the door shut.
Shit.
They're actually here to take Tangtang away. The group of 5, who had the door closed on them and were shut outside the house after being sprayed with a face of spit, were dumbfounded. That's right. We did come to pick up our master. Isn't that tiny ancestor our master? Brick Moving Foreigner wore an innocent expression. Did I say something wrong? Devotee stared at the closed door, pain gripping his heart. Little sweetie, are you stupid? At least wait until we eat our meal before telling her. Chapter 1209 Nameless, Nyeluk Lost. Why, Sister Famous, ye so angry about us picking up the little devil? Devotee was taken back briefly before saying, Right, why is Boss Famous so angry? Spray of Flowers curled his hand so that his middle finger and thumb were touching while the rest of his fingers were extended, and he ran his hand over nameless Nya's face. You terrible men, you don't understand a girl's mind at all. Boss Famous clearly doesn't want Little Devil to leave, Devotee asked. Boss Famous doesn't want to part with Little Devil? A woman's mind is truly like the bottom of an ocean. Nameless Nya slapped away Spray of Flowers' hand and rubbed his chin. That can't be right. Spray of Flowers gave him a reproachful look and raised his brows. Why can't that be? Your Little Devil acts differently in front of Sister Famous Yi than when he's with us. He knows how to charm girls. Devotee impatiently said, Enough with this useless nonsense. So what about our food? You promised we would have food to eat when we got here. I don't care. Little sweetie, you made trouble, so you better pacify her and fix this. Outside the house, it had turned into a messy dispute. Inside the house, Yuanwan placed down all her bags and sat down with a terrible expression. Why are they suddenly taking Tangting home? Could it be? Boss Famous. Open the door. Boss Famous. Little sweetie's Chinese isn't good. Don't listen to his nonsense. Boss Famous. I've already tied up little sweetie. You can beat him however you wish. I beg for some food. Boss Famous. How about we give you Dead Man as collateral? Deal? Yuanwan speechlessly listened to the group of 5 beggars howling and crying outside the door. Shut up. You want to eat? Eat shit. After Yuanwan's lion roar, there was about a minute of silence outside. Yuan subconsciously turned to look at the door, due to the lack of noise. Did they really leave? Then Yuan saw something being sneakily stuffed inside from underneath the crack between the door and the floor. Yuan looked at it and saw it was a $1 coin, and then another coin was pushed inside. And then, as though it was with great heartache, a moment later, a third coin was slowly pushed inside. Yuan's expression was dark as the bottom of a pot as she stared at the coins pushed inside. Bloody hell. Do they think my house is a public bus? They actually pushed coins inside. Do they think pushing a few coins inside will be enough to dismiss me? Sister Famous Yi, this is our life savings. Boss Famous. Oh, open the door. Boss Famous. Saving a life is more meritorious than building a 7th-floor pagoda. A certain someone was on the brink of forgetting his own religion to beg for food. Yuan's mind was already a mess when she remembered that these people were there to pick up Tangdang. Now, her head hurt from the clamor outside. At this time, a loud commotion was heard from the kitchen. Yuan followed the sound and saw Jiao Jiao, Heidi, and their group curiously peeking their heads out of the kitchen and looking at her. When Yuan saw the 5-member mercenary group, she instantly ordered, "You all, what are you waiting for? They're being noisy to death. Hurry and help me get rid of that howling group outside." The 5-member mercenary group? The 5 people revealed immensely terrified expressions and simultaneously retreated several large steps back. After all, back in Myanmar, they had seen these 5 people's skills. The leader was especially inhuman. Heidi was on the brink of tears. And Master, that's impossible, right? We're kicking out those 5 people? Tangbin, any one of them could trounce the 5 of us to death. Song Chong. Exactly. Chapter 1210. 1210. After kicking the 5-member mercenary group out and sulking for a while, Yuan ended up opening the door to allow nameless Nia and his group inside. Yuan succinctly said, "Sit." Nameless Nia called, "Sister. Tangting isn't here, no need to call me sister." Yuan sat down on the sofa, and Nameless Nia sat across from her while the other 4 people waited on the side. Nameless Nia coughed lightly. Okay. Famous Yi. Yuan originally didn't want to see them or talk to them, but Tangdang and Si Yihan were about to return. Hence, she ended up releasing them inside. Why are you suddenly picking Tangdang up? Yuan paused briefly before asking, did an emergency happen at home? Or did you find Tongtong's parents? Nameless Nia answered, that wild man still isn't found, but my sister's been found. As expected, Tongtong's biological mother was found. Although this was the expected answer, Yuan still couldn't process it immediately. Why so suddenly? Nameless Nia explained, I previously promised you I'd definitely find them within 3 months. I actually had news already. It's just that I've failed too many times, so I didn't dare to make any final conclusions until I was certain. We only came to pick up Tangdang after we were certain we found the right person. Yuan sunk into silence. The bits and pieces of her past days spent with Tangdang surfaced in front of her eyes scene by scene. Suddenly, without any warning, Tangdang was going to leave. It was just as sudden as his appearance in the beginning. Upon seeing a lack of response from Yuan, Nameless Nia called, Sister Famous Yi? Yuan looked up and glanced at Nameless Nia. You trust me that much? Nameless Nia didn't understand. Huh? Yuan's gaze turned icy. What if I confiscate him and won't relinquish him to you? Without waiting for Nameless Nia to speak, Devotee excitedly said, Boss Famous, your spirit of eliminating evil from the populace is truly too moving and fearless. Spray of flowers interjected, you'll be our life savior from this moment onwards. Yuan rubbed her temples and exasperatedly rolled her eyes at them before she asked, Do you guys live near Northern Europe? Nameless Nia thought for a moment. Sort of. What does sort of mean? Yuan asked, Would it be convenient for me to visit Tangdang in the future? When Nameless Nia heard that, he looked a bit troubled and exchanged glances with the people behind him, who all didn't look too great either. Then Nameless Nya said, "Normally, of course you could, but the location of my home's a bit special. Outsiders can't enter casually." So, Yuanwan was startled briefly. Outsiders can't casually enter? What do you mean? Spray of Flowers explained with a coquettish voice. Basically, our place rejects outsiders and prohibits them from entering. If normal people trespass casually, well, their lives would be in danger. When Yuanwan heard this, a sense of déjà vu instantly hit her, and she subconsciously murmured, "Could it be, you're from the independent state?" Spray of Flowers raised his brows. Boss famous, you know the independent state? Nameless Nya was also a bit surprised. Was it Tang who told you? Yi Wanwan's brows furrowed tightly when she heard Spray of Flowers and Nameless Nya. She didn't expect them to really be from the independent state. Nameless Nya and the others were really residents of the independent state. Truthfully, she wasn't too surprised based on their frightening martial arts skills. Mr. Mu previously said the independent state wasn't a place you could enter and leave as you pleased. Chapter 12:11 Northern Europe was already far away, let alone that place riddled with danger, utterly beyond the imagination of normal people. Yuanwan was currently despondent due to this piece of news when Devotee went out to take a call and hastily returned after a brief moment. "Captain, old madam is hurrying us. Ling Feng and Ling Yun are already waiting outside. The plane will arrive soon." Spray of Flowers stretched lazily. "This miserable mission is finally coming to an end. I've had to be exposed to the elements day and night. Look at how mangled my face is." Devotee disdainfully rolled his eyes. "Stop focusing on your coarse skin. Hurry and explain the situation to Little Devil so we can take him back." Spray of Flowers was immediately taken back. "Explain the situation? Who?" Devotee promptly answered. "How would I know? It won't be me anyway." Spray of Flowers, I'm giving you a forewarning. I'm not going. Brick-moving foreigner, my Chinese isn't good. Iceberg man. What a joke. Are we running to the Little Devil to explain to him that we all deceived him? And so, the four of them turned to look at Nameless Nya in unison. Devotee said with a big grin, "I think it should be the liar who does the explaining. That's most appropriate." Spray of Flowers adamantly agreed. "Captain, you're handsome. You go first." Nameless Nya rubbed his chin. "How about we have a fight, and whoever loses will go?" The other four people. Shit. Isn't this too shameless? He should just say he absolutely won't go. Just when the five-member group was still fighting incessantly about who was going to explain, the sound of footsteps came from the entrance, quickly followed by a large and small duo entering the house. Sihin was wearing a light gray leisure outfit with a cool and aristocratic aura about him. Meanwhile, Tang Dang was wearing the cartoon print child outfit that Yuanwan bought for him and was holding a red bucket in his hands, which contained several small fish and shrimp happily swimming around inside. "Mommy," Tang Dang cheerfully ran inside with the bucket, but his joyful, soft, and adorable expression disappeared the instant he saw Nameless Nya and his group. Spray of Flowers, it's over, Devotee. It's over indeed. Captain is simply courting death. He actually had the guts to deceive Little Devil. I hope the fact that Little Devil's real mom is found can pacify Little Devil's fury. Otherwise, we're all done for." Spray of Flowers stared at the man next to Tang Dang. "Fuck. I think I'm going to cheat on Captain." Devotee. Wah. Devotee followed Spray of Flowers' line of sight and saw the man standing next to Little Devil. His lips twitched. "You two-timing, adulterous person. How could you be so easily moved by any slightly handsome guy you see? Are you worthy of Captain?" Spray of Flowers questioned. "Slightly handsome. You're telling me this is slightly handsome?" Wait, hold on. Why do I feel like Little Devil's expression and mannerisms are so similar to this man? Isn't Boss Famous too reliable? She even managed to find a fake dad that resembles Little Devil's real dad to this extent. When Yi Wanwan saw Tang Dang, she forcibly suppressed the rolling, chaotic mess of emotions inside and walked to the little fella with a faint smile. Tong Tong's back. Come quickly. Your uncle is here. Why aren't you greeting him? Tang Dang looked up and obediently said to Nameless Nia, Uncle. Nameless Nia was currently drinking tea to soothe his anxiety. When he heard uncle, he immediately spat out a mouthful of tea and nearly choked to death. Chapter 12. Devotee took advantage of Nameless Nia's choking to loudly shout, Little young master, Captain has something to say to you. Damn ladyboy, am I right? Spray of Flower's eyes were still glued to Yihin, and he nodded without even thinking. Right. The betrayed Nameless Nia nearly coughed up blood. These bastards. Yi Wanwan walked to Yihin and introduced them to him. Ajio, this is Tong Tong's uncle.
These are his friends.
Yihin's eyes briefly swept over the 5 people, his dark, unfathomable eyes akin to a bottomless black hole concealing all emotions. He nodded at them curtly, a greeting of sorts. Spray of Flowers' legs lost their strength, and he weakly held on to Devotee. This man is utterly superior grade, Devotee shuddered and hastily pushed him off. Damn ladyboy, can't you understand the current situation? How do you still have time to act so man-crazy? Yi Wanwan was afraid she couldn't stop herself from doing something illegal like kidnapping a child if she hesitated the slightest bit. Hence, she patted Tong Tong's head and gently said, Tang Dang, your uncle has something to say to you. How about you go upstairs with your uncle and talk? The little fellow revealed an unwilling expression in regards to Yi Wanwan's words for the first time ever. Yi Wanwan patted his head. Be good, Tang Dang, go on. Tang Dang extended his short arms toward Yi Wanwan. Mommy, hug. Yi Wanwan chuckled and hugged him. Why are you suddenly acting pampered? Tang Dang buried his head in his mom's neck. Mommy, Tang Dang caught some fish and wanted to make it for Mommy. Yi Wanwan saw the beads of sweat dotting the little fella's forehead. He had clearly sprinted back, so he could give her his catch as soon as possible. At that moment, Nameless Nia's phone started furiously ringing again, and the message notification also went off non-stop. Yi Wanwan thought for a moment before looking at Tang Dang. Your uncle's matter is very important. Hear him out first, alright? Nameless Nia interjected. Actually, it's unimportant. It's unimportant, Tang Dang said. Fine. Nameless Nia. In the end, Nameless Nia and Tang Ding both went upstairs, and the other 4 members all relaxed fiercely and hid as far away as they could and ran outside to wait. As soon as Tong Tong's figure disappeared from the top of the stairs, the gentle smile instantly disappeared from Yi Wanwan's face. Yi Wanwan grew limp. Yihin pulled her into his arms. When his familiar presence enveloped her, Yi Wanwan's collapsed emotionally. They found Tong Tong's biological mother. They want to take Tang Tang away. Yihin appeared to have guessed the situation already. He comfortingly embraced her and patted her back. Yi Wanwan said, Ajio, I clearly don't like children. Children are so troublesome. Why do I feel so sad that Tong Tong's leaving? I don't want Tang Dang to go. He eventually has to return to where he should be. Upstairs, in the bedroom, Tang Dang silently sat on the sofa. His soft and adorable cartoon outfit couldn't obscure the low pressure he emanated at all. Nameless Nia knew the little devil too well. He knew the situation was perilous as soon as he saw the little devil's expression and wished nothing more than to jump down from the table. The little devil merely had to make a few offhanded remarks in front of his grandparents, and Nameless Nia's days could turn bleak. He had no one but himself to blame for thinking up this idea. Now he had to explain it himself even if he would burst into tears. Chapter 12-13. Baby. Nameless Nia walked closer with a cautious smile. The little devil's pretty features instantly turned into a frown. Nameless, Nia wanted to seek familiarity, but upon catching the child's warning look, he tactfully changed his form of address. Ahem. Tang Tang. I have one piece of good news and one piece of bad news. Which one do you want to hear first? The child glanced at him. You only have 5 minutes. And so his guessing game approach also failed. Nameless, Nia had no choice but to talk. Then I'll say the bad news first. The sooner I die, the sooner I can reincarnate. Nameless, Nia sputtered for half a day before he falteringly said, well, we accidentally made a mistake. The woman with you right now isn't actually your mom. The second Nameless, Nia said, isn't actually your mom. Tong Tong's face chilled. Tang Dang unblinkingly stared at Nameless Nia with his pitch-black eyes. Uncle just said that uncle was mistaken? When the little devil deliberately emphasized the uncle was mistaken part, his eyes were as penetrative as X-rays. Nameless Nia couldn't withstand it anymore, so he could only tell the truth. Fine, I wasn't mistaken. I intentionally lied to you, but I really had no choice. I was just worried you'd wildly run around and end up in danger, so I had to find someone to pretend to be your mom and ask her to temporarily take care of you before I found your biological parents. Before the little devil flipped out, Nameless, Nia quickly took out the imperial sword. But don't worry. We found your biological mother already. It's absolutely for real this time. The DNA results came out an hour ago, so I immediately came here to pick you up. Tong Tong's face remained expressionless the whole time. It wasn't until he heard, "We found your biological mother," that his gaze shifted slightly. However, his long eyelashes soon concealed his eyes again. He was either silently exploding or silently destroying the world. Nameless Nia was embroiled in worry when the silent child suddenly said, "What did my mommy say?" Nameless Nia quickly answered, "Your mommy?
I don't know what she said."
I haven't seen her yet, so we have to wait until we go back." Anger surfaced on Tong Tong's face. "I'm talking about my mommy. I am talking about your mommy," Nameless Nia said before realization dawned on him. He probed, are you talking about
Yuan?
I told her your biological mother was found, but she didn't say much. She just told me to explain it to you. Tang Dang. Well, I did indeed deceive you about this, but I really didn't do it on purpose. Anyway, hasn't your real mom been found now? I've made it up to you, haven't I? Can't you forgive me this once?" Tang Tang expressionlessly glanced at his deceptive uncle. "Uncle, do you think your deception skills are really good?" Nameless Nia was startled. What do you mean?" Tang Tang didn't answer him and merely sat there with a cold expression. "You want me to go back?"
I can.
"But I have a request." He hadn't believed his unreliable uncle from the very beginning. He merely ignored all of his suspicions. "I like mommy. It has nothing to do with who she is." Nameless Nia instantly exhaled in relief. "Is little devil sparing me?" Nameless Nia immediately said, "Of course. Any request you have is doable." "So what's your request?" Tang Tang replied, "I want mommy to go back with me." Nameless Nia. Chapter 1214. 1214. Nameless Nia was instantly flabbergasted. Little devil wants Yuan to leave with him? Any other request would be easier to accomplish. However, his request was Yi Wanwan returning with him. This wasn't something Nameless Nia could decide. Nameless Nia looked conflicted. "My little ancestor, didn't I explain it to you just now? She isn't your mom. She's the person I found to pretend to be your mom. I was deceiving you. Why do you want her to go back with you?" As soon as the little fella heard that, his little face was icy without a single degree of warmth. "You have 10 minutes to complete my request. This has nothing to do with time. 5 minutes.
Wait.
Wait. I'll immediately go and find your mom." Nameless Nia immediately shot out the door. At the same time, downstairs in the living room, Yuanwan's mood eased up slightly with Si Yihin's comfort. Si Yihin, do you remember the independent state I mentioned to you? A glint flickered in Si Yihin's eyes. What? Yuanwan said. Tang came from the independent state. A layer of frost covered Si Yihin's face, but it dispersed into smoke the second Yuanwan looked at him. There was nothing abnormal in his expression as he asked, "Is that so?"
Yeah.
Tongtong's uncle said it himself. I originally thought I could visit him whenever I missed Tangdang, but I didn't expect Tangdang to be from the independent state. Yuanwan's expression turned gloomier and gloomier as she spoke. I wonder how I can get a permit for the independent state, and I wonder if I can ask Tongtong's uncle for help to forge a fake permit? An idea suddenly popped up in Yuanwan's mind. You can't. The chaos and xenophobia in independent state isn't something you can imagine. Even if you have a permit, you're asking for death if you trespass willfully. The independent state's laws state that all residents are prohibited from bringing outsiders into the independent state without permission, or else they'll be heavily punished. No one dares to disobey this law. Yuanwan's mood grew heavier as Si Yihin spoke. Then she thought of something and looked at him with surprise. Ajio, why do you know so much? When I asked you before, didn't you say you didn't know this place? It came up in my conversation with Mu Suifeng. Oh, then doesn't that mean I won't ever see Tangdang again after he leaves today? Yuanwan was mid-speech when Nameless Nia used the railings as support and jumped down from the second level, landing in front of Yuanwan. After dashing out the door, he didn't have time to take the stairs. Sister Famous Yi. Save me. Yuanwan's lips twitched as she watched this person who dropped down from the sky. What happened? Didn't you give Tangdang an explanation? What did Tangdang say? Nameless Nia's face resembled dirt. Tangdang said that he won't agree to spare me and go back with me unless I agree to his request. Yuanwan asked, Request? What request? He wants you. Yuanwan pointed at herself. Huh? Want me? Nameless Nia nodded. That's right. He wants you to go back with him. The second Nameless Nia finished speaking, he clearly felt a chilling aura that was hundreds of times more terrifying than when he faced Little Devil earlier. Of course, Yuanwan also felt it. She was sitting right next to Si Yihin, so she felt it even more clearly. Chapter 12:15 Si Yihin's current expression was practically identical to back when he learned she was going to elope with Gu Yueza. Yuanwan instantly glared at Nameless Nia. Couldn't he have assessed the situation and sneakily talked to her on her own? She was going to die because of him. Yuanwan glanced at the unhappy Si Yihin but also remembered Tangdang. She felt like she was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Go back together? Nameless Nia looked miserable. Sister Famous Yi, I know I'm asking too much from you. But it was Little Devil who insisted on this request, or else he won't go. Yuanwan wore a deep frown. She would miss Tangdang immensely, but visiting Tangdang frequently was enough to satisfy her. But now, they wanted her to go back with Tangdang? Even if she had a way to enter the independent state, what role should she take on to see Tangdang, now that they found Tongtong's mother? Yuanwan was enveloped in turmoil as she said, I'm sorry, I'm afraid this isn't appropriate. Before Nameless Nia could say anything, footsteps were heard from the top of the stairs. Yuanwan automatically turned around and saw the little fella standing behind her like an abandoned little animal, even as for lost its life. Mommy, you don't want Tangdang anymore? Yuanwan's heart softened almost immediately, and she tossed everything to the back of her mind. She would be willing to accompany baby Tangdang anywhere, even to the end of the world, especially when she heard him calling her mommy. Yuanwan walked over and fiercely pulled the little fella into her arms. As she hugged the little fella's soft little body, her oppressed longing flooded out of her.
No.
How could Mommy not want Tangdang? Mommy also can't bear to part with Tangdang. Tangdang hugged her tightly as though he was afraid of being abandoned. Tangdang also doesn't want to leave Mommy. Yi Wanwan's heart throbbed with pain. Tangdang, Mommy, sorry. Mommy lied to you. However, you might not be my child, but I really, really like you very, very much. Tangdang is the most adorable, most likable baby in this whole world. I will also miss Tangdang a lot. But your mom, your grandpa, and your grandma must all miss you a lot too. Yuanwan took a deep breath before she finally said, Baby, you should go home. Tangdang tightly hugged Yi Wanwan's neck without a single word, completely unwilling to release his hold. Nameless Nia's phone started ringing. Nameless Nia cautiously walked to the child. Tangdang, it's your grandma calling. The little fella remained unmoving. Nameless Nia glanced at Yuanwan with a troubled expression. Yuanwan gently patted Tangtang's back. Baby, take the call. Only then did Tangdang release Yuanwan and take the phone from Nameless Nia's hand. Grandma, as soon as Tangdang spoke, the woman on the other end said, her voice shaky from emotion, Hey, baby. Grandma misses you so much. The little fella softly said. Tangdang also misses Grandma. Sobs appeared to flow from the other end of the phone when the woman heard her grandson's words. A moment of silence was heard as the woman steadied her emotions. Then she continued, Baby, did your uncle tell you? We found your mom. Ling Feng and Ling Yun went to pick you up, and Grandma made a lot of delicious food for you. Also, Grandpa and your mom are waiting for you to return. Tangtang sunk into silence. Tangtang. Yi Wanwan could faintly hear Tangtang's grandmother from the other end. She reached out and patted Tangtang's hair. Tell your grandma that you'll be home soon. Chapter 12:16. 12:16. A layer of mist instantly covered Tangtang's large, dark eyes. Grandma, Tangtang will be home soon. Gee, good. Good. Grandma will be waiting for you at home. Madame Nia was overjoyed her family would finally be reunited. Tangtang, have. Madame Nia didn't seem to know how to address Yi Wanwan in front of Tangdang, so she said, Have your uncle take the phone. Tangdang handed the phone to Nameless Nia. Grandma's asking for you. His real mom finally remembered him. Nameless Nia eagerly accepted the phone. Hello? Mom. However, Nameless Nia had just spoken 2 words when Madame Nia interrupted. Have Miss Yi take the phone. Nameless Nia. Oh, a certain mouthpiece handed the phone to Yi Wanwan. My mom wants to speak with you. Yi Wanwan nodded and took the phone. Hello, a woman's gentle and refined voice came from the other end. Hello, Miss Yi. I'm Tangtang's grandmother. Sorry that I was unable to personally thank you until now. Thank you so much for taking care of Tangdang during this period of time. It's no trouble. Tangtang's very likable. Madame Nia said, I still have to thank you for your care. Miss Yi, you can name any request. You're too polite. I don't have any requests. Miss Yi, you can answer me after thinking it through. This is my daughter's wish, as well as my whole family's wish. Our Nia family doesn't like to owe any favors. We're willing to fulfill any request you have. Mu Suifeng previously mentioned to Yi Wanwan that there were many frightening hidden clans with mysterious backgrounds in the independent state. The Nia family was probably quite powerful, so Madame Nia's tone couldn't help but carry a haughty attitude that belonged to someone in a superior position. Yi Wanwan didn't mind Madame Nia's somewhat domineering attitude though, so she frankly said, Madam, I really don't need anything. Your son has helped me once before. I viewed this as returning a favor, so your family doesn't owe me anything. Madame Ye didn't insist again upon seeing Yi Wanwan's staunch attitude. After Yi Wanwan hung up, a wild gale whirled from outside the window, quickly followed by a helicopter slowly parking in the empty space in the back of Little Rose Garden. It appeared the people who came to pick up Tangdang had arrived. Yi Wanwan gathered her emotions and was about to help Tangdang pack up his luggage along with the things she bought for him that day. However, thinking better of it, Tangdang would have everything he needed after going back and wouldn't lack any of these things. Hence, she dispelled that thought. There didn't appear to be anything she needed to pack or could give him to take with him. After thinking for a moment, Yi Wanwan knelt in front of the little fella and pressed a kiss on his cheeks. Baby, goodbye. The current weakness in Tongtong's eyes was unbearable. Can mommy come with me? Yi Wanwan sighed gently. She naturally wanted to always be with Tangdang, and even considered kidnapping him countless times. Why wasn't she Tongtong's real mother? Mommy, why? Tongtong's eyes abruptly shot to see Yihin, who was next to Yi Wanwan. Is it because of this man? The little fella's eyes were incomparably serious. Mommy, I can also support you. Yi Wanwan. See Yihin. Nameless Nia. The rest of Nameless Nia's group, who was hiding outside the door. Devotee, oh my, what kind of situation is this? Spray of flowers. Little Devil's woman charming skills are too awesome. After Spray of Flowers finished talking, he clucked his tongue as he looked at Si Yihin's face. It's a pity that man's face is too powerful. Chapter 1217. 1217. Si Yihin said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of her." Si Yihin's words were as good as a stab to the heart. Without any surprise, the little fellow was on the brink of tears from anger. Yi Wanwan rebuked Si Yihin with a look before quickly pacifying Tangdang. Baby, be good.
Don't worry about Mommy. Mommy will be fine.
You also need to promise Mommy you'll take good care of yourself and listen to Grandpa and Grandma. You can't do dangerous things and make people worry again, okay? Upon seeing that the little fella still gloomily remained silent, Yi Wanwan kissed his cheek again. Tangdang will always be Mommy's most beloved baby. It wasn't until Yi Wanwan said those words that Tongtong's face eased up slightly. He furiously glanced at Si Yihin before clingily burrowing himself inside Yi Wanwan's arms and nodding sulkily. In the open space of the courtyard, Ling Feng and Ling Yuan, in their black clothes, reverently walked to Tangdang. Little young master, we should depart. Yi Wanwan knelt down and gently hugged Tangdang before promptly releasing him and tousling his hair. Go on. Perhaps it was because Tangdang was afraid of making his mom feel distressed and sad that he nodded docilely. He had already regained his calm and aloof expression. The little fella solemnly said, Mommy, goodbye. After bidding farewell to Yi Wanwan, the little fella hesitantly glanced at the man next to Yi Wanwan. At this time, Si Yihin, who had remained silent the entire time, lowered himself to the ground and opened his arms toward the child. Tangdang dazedly stared at Si Yihin for a while before he slowly walked toward Si Yihin. Si Yihin wrapped his arms around Tangdang, his broad and warm hand gently patting the back of Tongtong's head. Tangdang trembled lightly, his pitch-black but bright eyes instantly filling with tears and rolling down his face, drop after drop. Tangdang wants to be with Mommy. I want to be with Mommy and Daddy. Yi Wanwan took a deep breath and suppressed all her emotions. Don't cry, baby. Mommy promises you I'll definitely go visit you in the future, alright? Although she couldn't go to the independent state right now, it didn't mean she couldn't find a way to go there later. Mr. Mu once mentioned that while the independent state's law prohibited outsiders from entering, it also had an iron rule that welcomed martial arts experts. The little fella nodded and left Si Yihin's arms. In the end, he followed his two guards and slowly boarded the helicopter, his figure disappearing inside the cabin. When Nameless Nia and his group saw that the little devil boarded the helicopter, They all exhaled in relief simultaneously. They finally took care of it. They managed to save their lives. Ling Yun and Ling Yun bowed toward nameless Nya from the distance before also boarding the helicopter. In the next second, the helicopter started and rose higher and higher until it turned into a tiny and disappeared from their sight. Yi Wanwan dazedly stared at the empty sky and didn't speak for a long time. Nameless Nya let out a long breath. Sister Famous Yi, I truly thank you a lot for this time. Yi Wanwan returned to the present and looked at Nameless Nya. Aren't you guys leaving? Nameless Nya answered, there's still something we need to take care of here. We'll leave in a few days. Yi Wanwan nodded. Then we'll be taking off now. Nameless Nya cupped his hands in farewell. Devotee, we're leaving now? We haven't eaten yet. Spray of flowers. That's the only thing you worry about. It's already good that we salvaged our lives. Chapter 12:18. After everyone left, Yuan Wan and Si Yihin were the only people left in the courtyard. The faint smile Yuan used to send off Tang Dang still remained on her face. Si Yihin sighed lightly and pulled her into his arms. Yi Wanwan's repressed emotions seemed to flood out instantly. Her voice was hoarse as she asked, Ajio, I want Tang Dang. Can't Tang Dang be my child? Si Yihin caressed her hair. Tang Dang isn't our child after all. His true parents are still waiting for him. I don't care. I want Tang Dang. I'm Tang Tang's mom. I promised I'd always be with Tang Dang. If you like, we can also have a child later. I don't want one. I only want Tang Dang. In the bedroom, Yuan was exhausted an overwhelming amount of emotions that day, so she fell asleep as soon as her head hit the pillow. Si Yihin helped tuck her in the comforter and bent over to plant a kiss against the corner of her teary eyes. His phone suddenly started vibrating. There was a string of strange numbers on the phone screen. The second Si Yihin saw this number, his gentleness was replaced by an all-enveloping murky chilliness. The tranquility and peace in his eyes appeared to have shattered into Azura's inferno in the blink of an eye, as though he had descended into an abyss bereft of any daylight. Yuan slept for a very long time. When she woke up, it was already the next morning. She drowsily turned her head and immediately met Si Yihin's intently watchful eyes. His gaze was peaceful, calm, and content, containing a few traces of reminiscence as well. However, there was an extremely dark tinge in the depths of his eyes, as though he was restraining some extremely repressed feeling and intense pain. His emotions looked like they could break free of their shackles and shred that surface layer of calm at any moment and engulf her like a torrent of lava from a volcanic eruption. Yuanwan's heart couldn't help but stutter when she met this kind of gaze. Shortly after, sour pain inexplicably rushed into her heart due to the reminiscence and pain in Si Yihin's eyes. Ajio, you're awake. Si Yihin's eyes regained their clarity instantly, as though all of his emotions was a cloud of fog swept away by a breeze. Yi Wanwan's brows furrowed slightly. Although she was a bit hazy from just waking up, she was 100% certain that what she saw wasn't her imagination. You didn't sleep the whole night? Yi Wanwan probed furtively. For some reason, she had a feeling. Si Yihin watched her the whole night just like that. Si Yihin's expression was natural, without any peculiarity. I just woke up. I was about to head to the office. Oh, Yuan nodded before intently looking up at Si Yihin all of a sudden. Si Yihin, have we met before? What I'm saying is, did we know each other a long time ago? But I forgot. The borders of Si Yihin's impenetrable expression seemingly froze a little, but they melted away in the blink of an eye. We didn't. Yuan nodded. That's true. With looks like yours, there's no way I could have forgotten after seeing you. Yuanwan glanced at the time on her phone. I also have to go to the office. Si Yihan asked, you're not going to rest for a few days? Yuanwan shook her head. She was afraid she wouldn't be able to keep herself from thinking about Tangdang if she had nothing to do. Their home felt like it had turned cold and empty without Tangdang. Yuanwan stretched and drew up her energy. She said with a chuckle, although I was successful in this step, I still can't lower my guard. I'm still super far away from being powerful and being able to cover the sky with one hand at my current stage. Don't you remember my distant goal from back then? Chapter 1219. 1219. Si Yihan glanced at her with a meaningful expression. Distant goal? You mean, how when you're successful and all-powerful, you'll lock me up and won't let me go anywhere, not even to see my parents. You'll send people to follow and monitor me wherever I go and even lock. Stop.
Stop.
Yuanwan erupted into a choking fit from shock. Why the heck is your memory so good? She thought Si Yihan had forgotten already. She remembered that back then, she was still confined inside the house by Si Yihan, so she had an argument with Si Yihan. She told him that it was his freedom to marry whoever he wanted in a fit. Si Yihan's answer was, I don't need freedom. And so Yuanwan, whose freedom was restricted by Si Yihan, angrily said those exact words in response. She even said she would lock him up in bed and do whatever she wished to him. Si Yihan's response was, I'm looking forward to that. Thinking back on it now, as long as she docilely listened to him, or rather, as long as she stayed by his side, Si Yihan utterly spoiled and indulged her without any bottom line. Only you're allowed to bully me. Can't I counterattack? Yuanwan grumbled. Back then, she was planning to raise hundreds of pretty boys and start a harem when she obtained her freedom one day. However, she now gave it up all for him. Of course, she absolutely wouldn't dare to say this to Si Yihan. Si Yihan held her hand and placed it above his heart. Don't worry. Whether you're powerful or powerless, I won't go anywhere. Yuanwan could feel the strong pounding and warmth of his heart. She raised her brows and said, seducing me so early in the morning? I'm telling you, I'm not some gentleman. As she said that, she heard something vibrating by the bedside. Yuanwan was about to reach for it, but Si Yihan acted faster and picked up her phone. He glanced at it. A call from the company. Then he straightened his lapels. I'll head out now. Yuanwan nodded. Oh, all right then. I've on track on my end, but I'll go to your end to help you out after I've settled things. If you feel even the tiniest bit unwell, you have to tell me. Okay? You also have to call me if you aren't in a good mood. Okay. Although Yuanwan was a bit worried about the Si family, she remembered that the unrest in the Si family only occurred because of Si Yihan's health condition in her previous life. Now, the people under the Si family definitely wouldn't have the guts to ask for death considering Si Yihan's methods. As for seemingly, he'd been forced to flee outside the country, so he couldn't cause any major upheavals. Lately, even the clan elders of the Si family had drastically changed their attitudes toward her. In this life, she hadn't encountered anything in the Si family that she experienced in her previous life. This proved that fate was progressing in a completely different direction already. Yuanwan's heart finally settled as she thought about that. Si Yihan finished doing his tie. I'll be fairly busy for the next little bit, so I won't come back. Call me if anything happens. Yuanwan nodded. Okay. She had already troubled him too much because of Tangdang. It indeed wouldn't be convenient for him to keep living at her place and running back and forth. Yuanwan walked Si Yihan to the front door. I'll need to go on a business trip in the next 2 days, so I'll probably come to see you. You mustn't stay up all night. You must also eat your meals on time. Okay. All right, I won't keep delaying you. Go quickly. Yuanwan kissed the corner of his lips before waving her hand to urge him to leave. After Yi Wanwan watched Si Yihin walk toward the car parked by the door and enter the car, she yawned and walked back inside the house. She had just taken 2 steps when her back was abruptly tightly enveloped in a hard but boiling embrace. Chapter 12:20. Yi Wanwan was startled and stopped in her tracks. Ajio? Why did you come back? She was going to turn around, but Si Yihin held her tighter and prevented her from moving. About 10 seconds passed before he released her. Yi Wanwan blinked and spun around. What is it? Si Yihin didn't say anything and merely leaned over. He quickly and lightly pressed a kiss on her lips, as though he was afraid he wouldn't be able to restrain himself if he lingered a second longer. Yi Wanwan chuckled. So, he forgot his good morning kiss. She was realizing that Si Yihin's EQ was growing higher and higher. He would be able to graduate soon. I'm leaving now. Okay, Yi Wanwan answered. After Si Yihin kissed her, he immediately entered the car, as though he was afraid he would expose his emotions, which were escaping further and further out of their restraints if he lingered a second longer. What Yi Wanwan didn't see was the dark and chilly emotions that eroded his face after he entered the car and the door blocked his face from her. In the next few days, Yi Wanwan was busy flying everywhere to discuss and negotiate jobs. Si Yihin was also working on a large, important project. Su Yi said his health and mental state were decent, so Yi Wanwan sighed with relief. Yi Yi and Yi Shaoan set up many impedances openly and secretly. That family was driven to desperate actions and wouldn't take things lying down, so Yi Wanwan had to make all necessary preparations ahead of time. Since female and male clothes made zero difference to her at this point, Yi Wanwan started presenting herself in female clothes. Yi Wanwan loudly smacked a pile of documents on the table. Is that punk, Gong Su, done resting yet? Tell him he must start working tomorrow. Yao Zhaoen looked troubled. I called to rush him, but it was Dong Zai who took the call. Dong Zai said. Yi Wanwan looked up. What did he say? Yao Zhaoen answered. He said his heart was broken, so he was requesting a year of leave. The corners of Yi Wanwan's lips twitched. An artist taking a year of leave. Is he asking for death? He started acting up as soon as he got Best Actor. Yao Zhaoen sighed and looked like she was in a terrible fix. I've tried every method I could, but Gong Su won't listen to me at all. Director Yi, I think you'll have to make a personal trip. As they spoke, someone knocked on the door and entered. Brother Yi, you were looking for me? When Yi Wanwan saw Luo Chen, her expression improved a little.
Yeah.
Take this screenplay home and study it well. Okay. Then Luo Chen added, oh right, Brother Yi, don't worry about Gong Su. I've already contacted him. He said he'll return to work tomorrow. Yi Wanwan was surprised. Really? How did you persuade that fool? Perhaps it was because Yi Wanwan was suddenly dressed in female clothes that Luo Chen was unaccustomed to it and avoided her eyes. He coughed lightly. Actually, I didn't say much. I just said one sentence. Before Luo Chen finished speaking, a loud, abrupt bang was heard as the office's door was opened again. Gong Su fierily charged inside and proceeded to stare at the girl in a light gold woman's suit with slightly wavy hair sitting behind the desk, his eyes wide open. Gong Su was dumbfounded. Damn, Luo Chen wasn't lying to me. Brother Yi really wore female clothes to work. Gong Su looked as though 100 million yuan brushed past him. Blockhead, why the hell didn't you tell me earlier? Luo Chen chose to ignore him without any hesitation. Yi Wanwan speechlessly looked at his puffed-up state. Tell you what earlier? Gong Su pursed his lips, not saying anything. Chapter 12:21 Yi Wanwan said, "Since you're here, go pick up your schedule from Jiawen." Gong Su, so infuriating. But I can't get mad at little candied plum at all. Gong Su looked back 3 times with every step he took before finally squeezing out, "Brother Yi." Yi Wanwan looked up from her documents. "You need something else?" Gong Su asked, "When will you break up?" Snap. Yi Wanwan forcibly broke the fountain pen in her hand.
Bang!
Gong Su immediately scrambled outside in fright, slamming the door shut behind him. This idiot. He actually dared to wish I would break up. Yi Wanwan randomly picked up her phone. She sent a message to Si Yihan and asked him out to have dinner that night. However, it had been over an hour, but he still hadn't responded to her. Si Yihan usually replied within seconds of her sending messages before. He's probably been too busy lately. Yi Wanwan didn't pay too much attention to it and continued to work. After she got off work, her message still silently rested on the screen without any answer. Yi Wanwan frowned and called Si Yihan. "Sorry, the person you're calling is unavailable right now. Please try your call again later." Sorry, for some reason, an ominous feeling rose in Yi Wanwan's heart. Yi Wanwan immediately called Su Yi. This time, the call connected quickly. Su Yi answered. "Hello, Miss Wanwan?" "Steward Su, is Aja with you?" Yi Wanwan asked straight to the point. "Ninth Master? He's in a meeting with his business partner right now. Did something urgent happen?" Yi Wanwan relaxed when she heard that. It's nothing. I was just wondering. No need to tell him. Good luck." It was Gong Su's fault for talking nonsense and causing her imagination to run wild. A few days later. "Sorry, the number you're calling is currently turned off." Yi Wanwan had a deep frown on her face. Si Yihan's phone was still turned off, and she couldn't reach him. It was completely understandable for a person to turn their phone off and ignore calls when they were too busy. However, if it was Si Yihan, that was absolutely impossible. This type of situation had never happened during her relationship with Si Yihan in both her previous and current lives. Even when their relationship was at its worst, Si Yihan never ignored her calls for so long. In addition to this, Si Yihan's recent loss of control over his emotions as well as the slight peculiarity when he left the little house of Rose that day, it made Yi Wanwan feel more and more ill at ease. Si Yihan's ability to conceal his emotions was too strong. If he didn't want someone to notice any emotional abnormalities, then that person wouldn't be able to tell. Even so, Yi Wanwan still managed to detect the strangeness once. This meant Si Yihan might have reached the point of being unable to control his emotions anymore. Yi Wanwan rapidly called Su Yi's number and frankly asked, "Steward Su, tell me honestly, where did Aja go?" There was a long silence from the other end. Then Su Yi finally spoke. "Miss Wanwan, we've dispatched all of our scouts and manpower, but we haven't found Ninth Master yet." "What are you saying? What do you mean you haven't found him?" "Miss Wanwan, Ninth Master. He might have gone missing." Su Yi's voice sounded anxious and tired and didn't sound like he was joking. "Missing?" Surprise, as well as disbelief, surfaced in Yi Wanwan's eyes. How could Ajio have gone missing for no reason all of a sudden? Chapter 1222. 1222. In the past few days, she had been busy with the company and knew Si Yihan was very busy. Su-yi also said he was occupied with an important project, so she hadn't disturbed him. By the time she contacted Si Yihan, who would have expected that she wouldn't be able to get in touch with him at all, and his phone would be turned off. At first, Yuanwan didn't pay much attention, but as time went on, she felt like the matter wasn't that simple. Even if Si Yihan's phone was turned off, it absolutely wouldn't stay off for more than half a day. Moreover, even Si Yihan's work phone went unanswered. Su-yi, are you sure? Audio's missing? Yuanwan had a deep frown. Miss Wanwan, I'll tell you the truth. Lately, the overseas Huafeng group has had a very important project with the Si family. Ninth Master received Huafeng group personally and negotiated with them the whole time. However, in the past few days, it was like Ninth Master disappeared off the face of the earth without any news. Even the people from Huafeng group can't contact Ninth Master. The Si family has completely locked down the news of Ninth Master going missing, so outsiders don't know. But the Si family has turned into an utter mess, Sui sighed. As the patriarch of the Si family, Si Yihan absolutely wouldn't leave for a few days without saying anything or cut off all contact with them. There was only one possibility: an accident probably happened. However, no one knew what kind of accident happened. I'll come over immediately. Yuanwan quickly hung up and drove to the Si residence. Yuanwan's heart chilled as soon as she arrived at the Si residence. Things were different. The number of guards around the residence had grown by several-fold, and everyone was in a state of emergency, as though they were facing a great enemy. Miss Wanwan. As soon as she entered the Si residence, Su-yi hastily walked toward her. What in the world happened? Why did Ajio go missing for no reason? Yuanwan asked as she looked at Su-yi. It's a long story. Su-yi shook his head. How could he know what happened? Ninth Master disappeared out of nowhere. Did you pull up the surveillance yet? Yuanwan asked. Su-yi nodded. We've pulled up all the surveillance from the past several days, but we didn't discover any trace of Ninth Master. Yuanwan sunk into contemplation. If the Si residence's surveillance was unable to find Si Yihan, there were only two possibilities remaining. The first possibility was that an expert covertly abducted Si Yihan without anyone in the Si family noticing. The second possibility was that Si Yihan left the Si residence himself. If it was the first possibility, then Si Yihan's abductor must have a profound relationship with the Si family. Otherwise, how could they have successfully dodged all of the surveillance inside the Si family residence? However, Yuanwan leaned more toward the second possibility. After all, trying to abduct the patriarch of the Si family from the Si family's headquarters on their own was no different from a fairy tale. If Si Yihan left himself, it would be as simple as a breeze for him to avoid the surveillance cameras. After some deep contemplation, Yuanwan swiftly threw out the second possibility too. Si Yihan didn't have any reason to run away from home without telling anyone. This didn't fit Si Yihan's personality at all. If both of these possibilities were overthrown, what happened to Si Yihan then? He couldn't have disappeared without a trace for no reason. With Si Yihan's personality, he absolutely wouldn't have chosen to avoid the situation regardless of the difficulty of the situation. Moreover, even if he did encounter some kind of trouble, Si Yihan absolutely wouldn't conceal it from her and even abandon her. Chapter 1223. 1223. Si Yihan's current mysterious disappearance was akin to a cloud of heavy fog that trapped not only the entire Si family, but also Yuanwan. Su-yi, do you think Ajia went out of the country for business purposes? Yi Wanwan asked Su-yi. Su-yi shook his head. After some contemplation, he said, there aren't any projects that need ninth master to work on himself lately. Plus, the most important project right now is the negotiation with Huafeng Group. The C family and the Huafeng Group discussed a large project several years ago, so there's nothing that could possibly be more important than the project with the Huafeng Group right now. Then were there any signs in the days before Ajio's disappearance? Yi Wanwan asked. Su-yi's brows were locked together. A moment later, he answered, Miss Wanwan, if you put it like that, Ninth Master was especially temperamental and extremely quick to anger in the few days before his disappearance. Temperamental. Quick to anger? Yi Wanwan was taken back by Su-yi's answer and recalled how Su-yi called her on the day of the Golden Orchid Award ceremony. She asked, do you know why? Si-Yihan told her it was business-related when she asked back then. That I don't know. Anyhow, Ninth Master frequently locked himself inside the room during those few days. In addition, the study was nearly destroyed by Ninth Master, Su-yi replied. Where's grandmother? Yi Wanwan abruptly switched the topic. Miss Wanwan, Ninth Master's disappearance shocked old madam too much, and she collapsed. The doctor said she needs to recuperate peacefully, so I don't recommend that Miss Wanwan disturb old madam right now. Su-yi felt helpless. Yi Wanwan also had to leave that matter alone. Because the patriarch of the C family had disappeared with his fate unknown, the C family had turned into a chaotic mess. Some people even claimed Si-Yihan had died already. Many higher-ups of the C family also chose this critical moment to get restless, but thankfully, it was forcefully suppressed by the old madam for the time being. If Si-Yihan didn't appear soon, though, things wouldn't be suppressed for much longer. Currently, the C family was like a volcano that was about to erupt, and the consequences couldn't be predicted if this volcano did erupt. There was absolutely no way Si-Yihan wasn't aware of such serious consequences as the patriarch of the C family. Hence, Yi Wanwan was certain Si-Yihan's disappearance was caused by an external factor. Go to your own thing first, Yi Wanwan told Su-yi a moment later. All right. The C family is seriously too chaotic right now, and there are many things waiting to be taken care of. Miss Wanwan, don't be too worried. Maybe Ninth Master will return before long. Su-yi glanced at Yi Wanwan before sighing and leaving. Although Yi Wanwan's heart was torn with worry right now and she urgently wanted to figure out what happened to Si-Yihan and his current location, there wasn't a single lead in the current situation. Based on what Su-yi told her, Si-Yihan kept locking himself inside the study in the last days before his disappearance. Yi Wanwan headed towards Si-Yihan's study. The inside of Si-Yihan's study was in complete disorder. The landline was ruthlessly smashed onto the ground and shattered into pieces. The several hardwood chairs were also broken into fragments. Yi Wanwan picked up the phone from the ground and examined it. She discovered that the phone was broken, but she could still check the call history. The last call coincidentally matched Si-Yihan's time of disappearance. Chapter 12:24 Yi Wanwan immediately marked the phone number down. This string of numbers was a bit unusual and didn't seem like a domestic phone number. After a moment of hesitation, Yi Wanwan used her phone to call this strange number. However, the busy tone that came from the other end of the phone caused Yi Wanwan's heart to completely sink into an icy pool. Yi Wanwan called Yi Mufan. What? Yi Mufan asked. Brother, help me look into a number. Yi Wanwan went straight to the point and told him the number. What kind of number is this? So strange. It doesn't seem domestic or from the neighboring countries. This kind of phone number exists? Yi Mufan sounded surprised. Help me investigate it, Yi Wanwan ordered. Hold on. Don't hang up yet. Yi Mufan immediately turned his computer on and inputted the phone number. Damn, Yi Mufan's shocked exclamation came a moment later. You found it. Yi Wanwan was startled. No, Yi Mufan said. Your phone number doesn't belong to any country at all, and isn't a fictitious number. This number simply doesn't exist. Doesn't exist? Yi Wanwan frowned deeply and immediately searched the call history of the study's phone again. However, this strange phone number didn't just call the phone in Si Yihin's study once, it called at least 5 times. Si Yihin also picked up the phone almost instantly every single time, as though he had remained inside the study to wait for this call the whole time. However, this number didn't exist in the outgoing call history. Hence, this number definitely existed. Also, with Si Yihin's personality, unless it was a number he couldn't call personally, he absolutely wouldn't stay inside the study and passively wait for the caller to call him every day. In other words, this number could only be received and couldn't be called. Wanwan, this number of yours can't be reached at all. Anyway, what kind of number is this? Did you give me the wrong number? Yi Mufan was heard from her phone. I understand. Keep helping me look into it. This number definitely exists. Yi Wanwan then hung up the phone. As Yi Wanwan sat inside Si Yihin's study, her emotions darted every which way. For some reason, Yi Wanwan became increasingly certain Si Yihin's disappearance was intricately linked to this strange number. It wasn't entirely impossible that he disappeared because of this phone number. While Yi Wanwan was deep in thought, she saw a metal briefcase sitting by the leg of the bookcase from the corner of her eyes. There was an obvious code name engraved onto the briefcase, YWW. Yi Wanwan stood up and picked up the briefcase. After evaluating it, she discovered the briefcase had a lock and couldn't be opened without a password. Yi Wanwan's eyes settled on the enigmatic letter code on the folder with confusion. What did the 3 letters YWW represent? Yi Wanwan's eyes glinted. The automatic response in her mind was that it was an acronym of her name in Pinyin. Yi Wanwan's acronym just happened to be YWW. Could this be a coincidence? Yi Wanwan's hands clenched slightly. She instantly wanted to attempt to open this briefcase. However, after trying several sets of passwords, Yi Wanwan still couldn't open the briefcase. Yi Wanwan instinctively felt like the contents of this briefcase were related to her. Chapter 1225. 1225. Why did Si Yihin suddenly disappear? Where is that weird phone number from? Also, what was inside this briefcase with its clearly labeled acronym? Yi Wanwan's thoughts were in a turmoil, so she forcefully tugged the password lock. Kachuk. Yi Wanwan was taken back, but reflexively looked down at the lock in her hand. She bluntly ripped the lock off. This lock appeared to have been touched by someone. Could it be that someone already decoded the lock? Yi Wanwan quickly took out the briefcase's contents before she could think about it more deeply. Hypnosis. There was a thick stack of documents inside the briefcase with a string of foreign language written on it. Yi Wanwan furrowed her brows. These documents recorded everything related to hypnosis and memory. This included memory masking and memory recombination, as well as the unfamiliar and difficult-to-understand field of genetics. Yi Wanwan managed to roughly understand the content based on the introduction and abstract of the documents. It was a theory on the sequence of A plus B memory masking. Basically, the user would erase person A's memory and then forcefully mask person B's memory over the depths of person A's mind with the method of deep hypnosis. If person A's memory was completely erased by the hypnosis method and person B's memory was forcefully integrated into person A, then person A would theoretically replace person B and become them. Even person A themselves wouldn't detect it at all. Yi Wanwan was confused as to why Si Yihin was interested in this subject. When Yi Wanwan flipped to the next page, she was utterly dumbfounded. There was a lot of information about countless girls recorded on the following pages. Every girl was deceased already, but everything about them, from their family background to their growing experience, was recorded very meticulously in minute detail. Yuanwan even saw her own information and file in there. Name: Yuanwan. Gender: female. Age: 16. Father: Yi Shouting. Mother: Liang Wanjun. Grandfather: Yi Hongwei. Grandmother: Tand Ilan. Older brother: Yi Mufan. Family background: a daughter of the Yi family in China, died in a terrorist attack abroad at the age of 16. When Yuanwan saw her introduction file, it was a shock to both her eyes and her mind. The file contained a detailed record of her, and the final statement, enclosed, stated she died in the terrorist attack abroad several years ago. Also, at the very end of the file, there was a remark, suitable for memory masking. There was a CD placed at the very back of the file. Yuanwan took out the CD and walked back to the desk. She turned on Si Yihin's computer and placed the CD into the CD drive. A moment later, a video automatically popped up on the computer screen and started playing. "Are there any issues?" A man's icy voice was heard. Promptly after, an elderly man wearing white clothes appeared in the video. Ninth Master, we've already studied this project for more than 30 years. There's an enormous risk if it's done with the genetics method, but we've switched it to the method of deep hypnosis. It can accomplish the same result and absolutely won't yield any problems. The theory, the man said. The elderly man in white nodded and explained, deep hypnosis completely destroys the memories of the hypnotized person, and everything the hypnotized person experienced will reset. During this period of time, if there aren't new memories masking over the gap, the hypnotized person will lose their self-identity. However, if we use the hypnosis method and forcefully inject someone else's memory into the hypnotized person, this action is called memory masking, then the hypnotized person will completely transform into the owner of the memory being injected. Basically, the hypnotized person will undergo drastic changes and completely turn into someone else. Chapter 1226. 1226. Is there a suitable candidate? The man asked. There is one. It's the person you picked earlier, Yuanwan. We've studied her. Although the two people have an age difference, Yuanwan's face bears more than 90% similarity to her face. Her family background is also satisfactory, and Yuanwan previously died in a terrorist attack abroad, the elderly man in white replied. All right, what do I need to do? Ninth Master, you just need to use your methods to wipe away the death of Yuanwan and keep it from her family. At that time, she will completely replace Yuanwan. She will become Yuanwan and possess all of Yuanwan's memories from when she was alive, the elderly man said. Then the scene changed, and the backdrop of the video turned into a research facility. A woman was laying on the bed with a pained expression. Si Yihin was kneeling next to her and occasionally caressed her hair with a turmoiled expression. The news has been sealed, and no one knows about Yi Wanwan's death. You can begin. Si Yihin looked at the elderly man. Ninth Master, are you certain? Once memory recombination through deep hypnosis is conducted, this girl's original memories will be utterly destroyed. Her memory won't recover no matter what method you use. She'll turn into an individual with completely new memories forever. She'll become the deceased Yuanwan. The elderly man sought confirmation again. Begin, Si Yihin succinctly repeated. After obtaining confirmation from Si Yihan, the elderly man in white nodded at his assistants and began to initiate deep hypnosis with the woman on the bed. The video ended there. In the study, Yuanwan was brimming with shock, her eyes pervaded by disbelief. She was trembling slightly, and cold sweat drenched her forehead. That girl laying on the bed in the research facility was none other than herself. The amount of information enclosed in this video was overwhelming, so Yuanwan was unable to process and accept it immediately. An unknown amount of time passed before Yi Wanwan forcefully recollected her thoughts. According to the video, Yi Wanwan died in a terrorist attack outside the country when she was 16 years old. As for herself, she was forcefully injected with all of Yi Wanwan's memories through the method of deep hypnosis so that she could become Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan's death was locked down by Si Yihin, so no one knew. That elderly man also said that her and Yi Wanwan's appearance was more than 90% similar. In other words, I'm not Yi Wanwan, but if I'm not Yi Wanwan, who am I? That's impossible. Yi Wanwan took a deep breath, still entrenched in disbelief. Her parents, her family, all of her memories were forcefully injected into her. None of it belonged to her. If she wasn't Yi Wanwan, then who in the world was she? Who was her father? Who was her mother? More than that, where did she come from? Why did Si Yihin destroy all of her memories and forcefully mask them with someone else's memory so that she could take on Yi Wanwan's identity? Yi Wanwan didn't wholeheartedly believe the video yet, because her memories were so real. Her entire life, her dozens of years of memories, she personally experienced them herself. How could they be someone else's memories? However, the events of the video were so realistic. Both Si Yihin's tone and attitude didn't seem fake, and Yi Wanwan also believed the girl laying on the bed of the research facility was herself. Chapter 12:27, however, she didn't have this chunk of memory. She didn't know Si Yihin at all at that age, so why would she lay on that bed and be injected with someone else's memory after her memory was wiped clean through deep hypnosis? Yi Wanwan felt her head swelling into a giant balloon. An intense lost feeling enveloped her. Yi Wanwan could barely handle Si Yihin's disappearance already. Now, she appeared to have discovered the secret behind her identity in Si Yihin's study, and the mastermind behind everything was none other than Si Yihin. If the contents of the video weren't a joke and she really wasn't Yi Wanwan, then who was she? The video might look realistic, but the memories entrenched in her mind were also very realistic. Every memory from childhood to now was personally experienced by her. How could her extremely precious memories become another person's property all of a sudden? Yi Wanwan immediately took a deep breath and restrained her emotions. She sat behind the desk and used Si Yihin's computer to look into everything about memory masking. However, she only managed to find a very limited amount of information. With current technology, erasing the memory of an adult could be accomplished, but injecting another person's memory wasn't too realistic. Any perfect, flawless memory injection was accompanied by an extremely large risk, and these injected memories would also have an immense bug. If a person were to be injected with fake memories, then that person could find the holes and clues fairly easily, unless they were memories that belonged to the person themselves. Unless the person injected with a fake memories never suspected themselves, it wouldn't be difficult for the person to discover their fake memories the moment they started being suspicious. There was only one plausible method to control the injected person from ever suspecting their identity: deep hypnosis. Deep hypnosis would also require sensory memory, long-term memory, as well as strong automatic mental cues, etc. If an error occurred in any of the segments, there was a large probability it would lead to the collapse of the patient's psychological mind. It was difficult to accomplish with current technology, but theoretically, there was a larger possibility of success with deep hypnosis. Once the deeply hypnotized person was done having their memory erased and the new memories were injected, the person absolutely wouldn't have any suspicions about their brand new memories due to the psychological effects of the automatic cues embedded deep inside their consciousness. Yi Wanwan felt a cold sweat drenching her entire body. If this was true, then theoretically speaking, it was entirely possible that she was merely the possessor of Yi Wanwan's memories, but wasn't Yi Wanwan herself. A moment later, Yi Wanwan shut the laptop. Even if it was deep hypnosis, if the hypnotized person started being suspicious about their own identity, there would still be holes for them to find. If she truly wasn't Yuanwan, and all of her memories were forcefully injected into her through deep hypnosis under Si Yihan's orders, there would definitely be a gigantic gap somewhere. After all, Si Yihan and the hypnotist couldn't possibly know every single detail about Yuanwan. Amongst all of the experiences in each stage of Yi Wanwan's life, the easiest stage for a bug to be found would be her childhood memories. This included Yi Wanwan's most favorite toy and possible crushes, and so on when she was a child. No one but Yi Wanwan herself and the people closest to her would know about these kinds of matters. If she really wasn't Yi Wanwan, then she could definitely find a logical gap. Chapter 1228. 1228 Yuanwan had a deep frown on her face as her mind kept recalling all her childhood memories. However, everything that happened in her childhood had already become deep in the recess of her mind, as though someone placed a giant lock on it. Except for significant events like how Yi Mufan accidentally pushed her into a lime pond while playing with a young Yuanwan and she nearly drowned, or how she was nearly kidnapped when she was young, Yuanwan couldn't recall any typical, everyday matters no matter how much she dug through her mind. She could remember her classmates from preschool, elementary school, and junior high, but the number didn't surpass 20. Her clearest memory was about her teachers. A moment later, Yuanwan called Yi Mufan. "I haven't found anything about the number you just gave me. I'll tell you as soon as I get anything." Yi Mufan's voice traveled from the other end of the phone. "Brother, I need to talk to you about something. Let's meet at the coffee shop near the office in half an hour." Yi Wanwan hung up once she finished speaking, and she stood up and walked out of the study. After leaving the C residence, Yi Wanwan drove to the cafe near the office. Half an hour later, Yi Mufan arrived at the meeting spot in a whirlwind fashion. A glance later, he found Yi Wanwan and walked toward her. "What's up?" Yi Mufan sat down in front of Yi Wanwan and put on a workaholic act. "I still have business to attend to at the office." Yi Wanwan glanced at Yi Mufan and chuckled lightly. "We haven't sat down to have a peaceful conversation in a while." "Huh?" Yi Mufan was dumbfounded. Yi Wanwan sought him out so urgently to talk. "Oh, right. What's going on with the phone number you wanted me to look into?" Yi Mufan curiously looked at her. "It's nothing. Forget it if you can't find anything." Yi Wanwan shook her head. Yi Mufan didn't say much more about it. The phone number Yi Wanwan gave him was truly a bit unusual. He couldn't find a single clue after a long search. "Brother Yi, do you still remember?" Yi Wanwan began as she looked at Yi Mufan. "Remember what?" Yi Mufan was startled. "When we were young and in the countryside, you pushed me into the lime pond, and I nearly drowned," Yi Wanwan said with a smile. Yi Mufan's expression instantly changed when he heard her words and vehemently shook his head. "I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't remember at all." His sister wasn't seeking revenge after so many years, right? No wonder he found Yi Wanwan's smile today a bit forced and strange. Could this be the legendary hiding a dagger in one smile? "I'm serious," Yi Wanwan said solemnly. "I'm also serious." "Ah. It's been so many years. It's all from when we were young. How could I possibly remember? I've forgotten everything from my childhood. I don't remember it." Yi Mufan fiercely shook his head. "Brother, I'm not angry." "I'm just reminiscing our childhood," Yi Wanwan said with a smile. "Reminiscing our childhood? Reminiscing my ass. If I really help Yi Wanwan reminisce our childhood, I'll probably start to question my life. Do you remember or not?" Yi Wanwan asked impatiently. "I don't remember. I really don't remember. Sorry for the trouble. I'll excuse myself now." Yi Mufan stood up, wanting to leave. However, before he could take more than a few steps, his shoulder was clutched by Yi Wanwan. She used an unshakable strength and forcibly dragged Yi Mufan back. Alright, you don't remember, right? Then let's find a place, have some drinks, and have a good talk, Yuanwan said with narrowed eyes and a light chuckle, purposefully emphasizing the have some drinks part. Her threat was obvious. What? Have some drinks? Yi Mufan was dumbstruck and became rooted to his spot, cold sweat seeping out of his forehead. Yi Mufan had personally witnessed Yi Wanwan's drunken state. She truly had no mercy whatsoever. Oh, I suddenly remember. It's that time you fell into the lime pool. It was even me who saved you, Yi Mufan awkwardly chuckled and quickly said. Chapter 1229. 1229. Yi Mufan secretly relaxed when he saw there weren't any changes to Yi Wanwan's expression. If he spoke the truth, she would still beat him to death, without any drinking involved. But this was fine. After so many years, Wanwan probably didn't remember the exact situation back then, so couldn't he make up the details however he wanted? Are you sure it was you who saved me? Yi Wanwan's eyes settled on Yi Mufan with a deep frown and dark expression on her face. Could it be that even this memory was mixed up? It wasn't Yi Mufan who pushed her into the water, and it was she who accidentally fell into the lime pond? However, Yi Mufan shuddered slightly when he saw Yi Wanwan's expression and hastily said, maybe actually, well, you can't blame me. Back then, we were both young. I accidentally pushed you inside. It wasn't until Yi Mufan said those words that Yi Wanwan's expression eased. It was identical to her memory. And then,
Yi Wanwan asked.
Then I saved you. Really? I swear. Yi Mufan snuck a peek at Yi Wanwan, feeling fairly guilty. I remember we had a neighbor in the countryside. The neighbor didn't pay much attention when they first saw us playing by the lime pond. But then the next time they looked back, they discovered you were the only one left next to the lime pond, and I was missing. Isn't that what happened? Yi Wanwan seriously looked at Yi Mufan. Yi Mufan trembled when he heard that and inwardly thought, Wanwan remembers everything to begin with. I also remember that the neighbor asked you where I went when they noticed I was missing. How did you answer? Yi Mufan's lips slightly twitched. He had no choice but to tell the truth. Our neighbor in the countryside asked me where you went after you disappeared in the blink of an eye. I was still young and couldn't utter a single word out of panic. Thankfully, you were still struggling inside the lime pond and popped your head out. Our neighbor instantly went to look for Mom in fright. As soon as Mom came over, she grabbed you by your hair and pulled you out of the lime pond. Yi Mufan wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Yi Wanwan was somewhat speechless. This useless troublemaker. Thank goodness their neighbor arrived in time, or else. However, both she and Yi Mufan were young back then. Yi Mufan also suffered a huge fright and lost all composure after accidentally pushing her into the lime pond, so Yi Wanwan didn't truly blame him. We lived quite a long time in the countryside, so this shouldn't be the only thing that happened, right?
Yi Wanwan continued to ask.
In her memories, she went to experience life in the countryside with her parents, but this was the only thing she remembered. Theirs isn't. That's really all. Yi Mufan frantically nodded with a ghastly expression. Oh. Yi Wanwan sardonically looked at him. Is that really all? Instantly, Yi Mufan looked miserable. Sister, what do you want? That time, I said I wanted to be a doctor, so I filled a syringe with water and poked your shoulder. It was just a prick. You screamed like a dying pig. I also didn't end up well, and our parents hung me up in a tree and gave me a thorough beating. Although the needle jabbed into your arm, it was really nothing compared to my thrashing from our parents, right? Yi Wanwan fell into a deep contemplation at Yi Mufan's words. She couldn't recall this story at all. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.